What if the remnants of our past held secrets that science has yet to unravel? Across the globe, beneath layers of soil, sand, and stone, lie artifacts and structures that defy explanation. Monuments whose precision outmatches modern technology, inscriptions whose meanings remain elusive, and ancient tools whose sophistication shouldn't exist, at least not in the eras they are found. From the sun-scorched deserts of Egypt to the mist-shrouded jungles of South America, these archaeological mysteries challenge everything we think we know about human history. How did civilizations move massive stones with no wheels, no cranes, no modern machinery? Why do certain sites align perfectly with celestial bodies as if designed with knowledge that predates recorded astronomy? And what lost knowledge or forgotten cultures might these relics whisper to us, if only we could listen closely enough? In this journey, we will explore these enigmas, confront the puzzles that have baffled scholars, and peer into the shadows of our own history. So, sit back, relax, and let's dive into the untold stories hidden beneath the earth. Stories that science can't fully explain, yet. Beneath the scorching sun of Upper Egypt, where the Nile winds lazily through the desert, there lies a place whose very name evokes whispers of splendor lost to time. The golden city of Luxor. Today, the sands have swallowed much of its story, leaving only faint traces for archaeologists to uncover. But imagine, for a moment, walking along the broad avenues of a city that once gleamed with gold, its walls adorned with painted reliefs and statues larger than life. The air would have been thick with the aroma of incense, the rhythmic chants of priests echoing through grand temples, and the distant clatter of artisans hammering gold into exquisite jewelry. It was a metropolis not only of wealth, but of knowledge, devotion, and power. The city, known historically as the Rise of Aten, was supposedly built during the reign of Amenhotep III, and thrived under his grandson, Akhenaten. Ancient texts speak of a vibrant center of commerce, religion, and culture, rivaling even Thebes in its influence. Pottery fragments, remnants of homes, and the faint outlines of streets have emerged from the sands, hinting at the scale and sophistication of this civilization. Yet, even with these discoveries, the full expanse of the city and its ultimate fate remains frustratingly elusive. Archaeologists have unearthed hints that suggest a society thriving far beyond what we might have expected for the time. Streets laid out with careful planning, walls reinforced with stone and brick, and storage facilities indicating an economy both complex and far-reaching. Yet, even with these tangible clues, there are elements that resist explanation. Some buildings seem to vanish beneath layers of sediment without trace. Certain artifacts, unusually pristine, hint at preservation methods we do not fully understand. And then there are inscriptions whose symbols diverge from the typical hieroglyphic canon, enigmatic messages whose meaning remains uncertain. Scholars have long debated the city's sudden disappearance. Was it abandoned due to political upheaval, religious shifts, or environmental catastrophe? Some point to climate change. The Nile's periodic flooding may have rendered the area uninhabitable, turning streets into canals and homes into ruins. Others speculate on internal strife, arguing that a sudden collapse of governance or economic collapse forced the population to flee, leaving treasures behind. And then there are whispers of more speculative theories. Some suggest hidden chambers beneath the sand, vaults of gold and relics yet undiscovered. Others hint at lost knowledge of astronomy, architecture, and metallurgy, secrets that ancient Egypt may have taken to the grave. Standing at the edge of an excavation site today, one cannot help but feel a profound sense of time layered atop itself. The wind sweeps across the desolate expanse, stirring dust that has lain undisturbed for millennia. Every shard of pottery, Every fragment of stone is a whisper from the past, hinting at a story both known and unknowable. What did life feel like in the bustling heart of the Golden City? How did its inhabitants perceive their world, and what caused them to vanish so completely? Interestingly, some of the architectural remnants suggest a level of sophistication that challenges conventional timelines. Streets aligned with astonishing precision, walls carved with techniques that defy explanation with the tools assumed to be available at the time. Could there have been knowledge lost to history, perhaps passed down in oral traditions that enabled such achievements? Or are these simply the mark of human ingenuity that we have yet to fully comprehend? Artifacts recovered hint at a society deeply intertwined with spiritual and celestial observation. Temples appear to be aligned with certain stars, and some tombs are positioned in ways that suggest an understanding of astronomy and seasonal cycles that seems almost advanced for the period. Was this alignment intentional, meant to honor the gods, or is it an indication of knowledge now forgotten? The Golden City of Luxor, even in its fragmented state, speaks to human ambition, artistry, and mystery. As modern machinery uncovers walls buried for centuries, we are reminded of how little we truly know. Every discovery seems to answer one question, only to raise 10 more. How much of this city has been lost forever to the shifting sands? What stories, treasures, or truths might still lie hidden, untouched, beneath the desert floor? In the end, the allure of Luxor is not just in its gold, its monuments, or even its historical significance, but in its unanswered questions. What did it mean for a civilization to rise so magnificently, to vanish so completely, leaving only faint echoes for us to follow? Perhaps the Golden City is a reminder that history is not only what we uncover, but also what continues to elude us, waiting patiently beneath layers of sand and time, daring us to look closer, think deeper, and wonder without end, as the desert winds of Luxor fade behind us, carrying with them whispers of a lost golden civilization. Our journey now takes us across the continents, into the dense, humid jungles of Central America. Here, the echoes of ancient civilizations are preserved not in sun-baked stones, but in objects that shimmer with an almost otherworldly light. Objects that have captivated archaeologists, historians, and collectors alike for centuries. The crystal skulls. At first glance, a crystal skull seems almost impossibly precise. Carved from clear quartz or smoky crystal, some nearly life-sized, they display the intricate detail of a human skull, complete with teeth, eye sockets, and subtle cranial ridges. Yet their perfection raises questions that conventional archaeology struggles to answer. How could pre-Columbian artisans, using tools available at the time, sculpt such flawless forms without the aid of diamond-tipped instruments? And why do some of these skulls appear unnaturally smooth, as if polished by techniques lost to history? Crystal skulls first entered modern awareness in the 19th and early 20th centuries, brought to Europe from Mexico and Guatemala. Many were said to have been discovered in remote temples, tombs, or caves, though records of their precise origins are often vague or contested. Carbon dating and material analysis have confirmed that some are indeed centuries old, yet debates remain over whether they are authentic pre-Columbian artifacts or products of later craftsmanship. What is indisputable, however, is the fascination they inspire, a fascination rooted not merely in their beauty, but in the seeming impossibility of their creation. Legends surrounding the skulls add to their enigmatic aura. Local lore often speaks of objects imbued with spiritual power, capable of healing, predicting the future, or even preserving the wisdom of lost civilizations. Some suggest that these skulls were repositories of knowledge, left behind by highly advanced Mesoamerican societies, or perhaps by cultures even older and less understood. Could these skulls have been ceremonial objects used in rituals connecting the living to the divine? Or might they have served as symbolic tools for recording sacred knowledge in ways that defy modern interpretation? Scientific investigation has uncovered details that are equally perplexing. Under magnification, the tool marks on certain skulls are so fine and precise that many experts argue they could not have been produced using conventional hand tools alone. Scanning electron microscopy has revealed grooves and cuts that suggest rotary instruments, technology thought to be unavailable in the pre-Columbian Americas. Yet other analyses point to natural fractures in the quartz that may have guided the shaping process, hinting at a combination of skill, patience, and perhaps methods we no longer fully understand. The skull's distribution further deepens the mystery. Found across disparate regions, from the highlands of Guatemala to the rainforests of Belize, and even in private collections around the world, they share an astonishingly consistent form. The recurrence of this motif raises questions about cultural exchange, lost civilizations, or even knowledge that transcended known borders. How did these disparate communities, separated by mountains, rivers, and dense jungle, develop such similar objects? Were the skulls part of a shared spiritual tradition, a common language of ritual, or could there be an explanation that lies beyond the historical record? Adding to the intrigue are the claims of unusual phenomena associated with certain skulls. Stories circulate of inexplicable sensations when holding the artifacts, warmth, tingling, a strange awareness, though these experiences are subjective and anecdotal. Some researchers report that when skulls are rotated or aligned with specific environmental conditions, subtle optical effects appear, such as unexpected refractions or light patterns. Skeptics argue these are coincidental or the result of quartz's natural properties, yet the tales persist, woven into the mythology surrounding these objects. Beyond the physical and anecdotal lies a deeper philosophical question. Why do the crystal skulls captivate us so powerfully, even today? Perhaps it is the interplay between mastery and mystery, the realization that humans could, through painstaking effort, shape a mineral as hard as quartz into a form so exacting, while leaving behind no clear record of method. Or perhaps it is the suggestion that our ancestors, across time and space, glimpsed truths about the world that remain partially hidden, encoded in objects that survive millennia yet resist full understanding. Modern archaeology continues to approach the skulls with caution, balancing scientific skepticism with the allure of discovery. Museums, laboratories, and private collectors have subjected the artifacts to rigorous testing, yet even with contemporary technology, the skull's origins, methods of manufacture, and intended purpose remain open questions. Are they ceremonial relics, the products of lost civilizations, or, as some suggest, tools of symbolic or spiritual significance whose meaning has faded with time? The line between science and legend blurs, leaving room for curiosity, speculation, and wonder. As we peer closer, examining each polished surface, each carefully carved groove, we confront the intersection of human skill, imagination, and the unknown. The crystal skulls invite us not only to marvel at craftsmanship, but to ponder what was valued, understood, and believed in the societies that created them. What knowledge, what traditions, what spiritual insights might have been preserved within these remarkable objects? And if some secrets are lost, could they still resonate with us, echoing across centuries through the sheer presence of these crystalline forms? In the heart of the Central American jungles, amid the ruins of temples long overgrown by vines and forest, the skulls remain silent witnesses. They hold no instruction manual, no definitive explanation, yet their existence challenges our assumptions about history, skill, and belief. As we continue to explore these mysteries, we are reminded that archaeology is not just about uncovering objects. It is about encountering questions, sometimes more compelling than the answers themselves. And so, the crystal skulls endure as symbols of both human ingenuity and the enduring mysteries that lie just beyond our grasp, waiting for those willing to look, wonder, and ask the questions history alone cannot fully answer. From the dense, humid jungles of Central America, where crystal forms and human craftsmanship intertwine in enigmatic ways, our journey returns once more to the deserts of Egypt, a land where the past seems to press against the present, and the sands themselves guard secrets that have survived millennia. Deep within the western reaches of the country, far from the bustling streets of Cairo or the temples of Luxor, lies the Siwa Oasis, an isolated world of palm groves, salt lakes, and shifting dunes. At its heart stands the Temple of the Oracle, a place both revered and mysterious, where history and legend entwine so closely that separating fact from folklore becomes a delicate endeavor. Approaching the temple, the first impression is one of quiet majesty. Weathered stone walls rise from the oasis floor, etched with inscriptions whose meanings have partially faded with time. Narrow pathways guide visitors toward darkened inner chambers, and the air carries a faint, earthy scent of sand, incense, and age. Sunlight filters through openings in the roof, illuminating reliefs carved with astonishing precision, scenes of pharaohs consulting gods, of rituals that bridge the human and the divine. Yet even in its grandeur, the temple exudes a certain ambiguity. It is both tangible and intangible, a place where the boundary between the known and the unknowable seems almost imperceptible. The historical significance of the Temple of the Oracle is well documented. It gained fame as the sanctuary where Alexander the Great reportedly sought guidance from the god Amun during his conquest of Egypt. The oracle's pronouncements, shrouded in ritual and secrecy, were believed to hold profound insight, influencing decisions that would ripple across empires. Archaeologists have uncovered remnants of structures dating back to the 26th dynasty, as well as traces of earlier sanctuaries that hint at a continuity of worship spanning centuries, perhaps even millennia. Yet for all that is known, there remain puzzles that resist easy explanation. Some inscriptions depict figures whose faces seem almost otherworldly, their features subtly different from traditional Egyptian iconography. Certain chambers are aligned with unusual precision to celestial bodies, casting shadows or beams of light at specific times of the year, as though the temple itself were a vast instrument of observation, blending religion, astronomy, and geometry. What knowledge informed these designs? Was it purely symbolic? Or did the builders possess understanding we have yet to fully grasp? Local lore adds another layer of intrigue. For generations, inhabitants of the oasis have spoken of hidden chambers beneath the temple, sealed and protected by spirits of the desert. Some tales describe rituals so potent that they could reveal truths about the past or foretell the future, knowledge that could be glimpsed only by those deemed worthy. While these stories may be colored by centuries of oral tradition, they reflect the deep reverence and mystique that surround the site, suggesting that the temple's significance extended beyond mere architecture or political ceremony. Archaeological studies have provided insights, yet they also raise new questions. Analysis of construction techniques reveals materials and methods that seem astonishingly advanced for their time, particularly in terms of stone cutting and alignment. Certain reliefs appear to have been deliberately hidden or obscured, hinting at symbolic or esoteric meanings. And although inscriptions reference well-known deities and rituals, some symbols remain undeciphered, resisting interpretation even by experts. What knowledge did the priests of Siwa hold, and why would some of it be concealed within the very walls of their sanctuary? The temple's isolation further amplifies its enigmatic character. Unlike the grand complexes of Luxor or Karnak, the Temple of the Oracle is nestled within a remote oasis, surrounded by vast stretches of desert that have changed little over thousands of years. Travelers crossing these sands recount an almost palpable stillness, a sensation that time itself moves differently here. Could this remoteness have been intentional, designed to protect sacred knowledge? Or is it merely a consequence of geography? Either way, it lends the site a profound sense of intimacy and secrecy, as if the desert itself is a guardian of ancient wisdom. Beyond its physical and historical features, the temple invites reflection on the nature of oracles and prophecy. Alexander's consultation with the oracle is recorded in multiple historical accounts, yet the precise nature of the pronouncement remains debated. Was it a carefully orchestrated political statement, a spiritual insight, or something that transcends modern interpretation altogether? And if such knowledge once flowed freely within these walls, what became of it? Were the secrets lost to time, intentionally obscured, or preserved in forms that remain hidden beneath the sands? For the modern visitor, standing before the weathered stones of Siwa, it is impossible not to feel a sense of continuity with those who came before. The light shifting across the carved reliefs, the whisper of wind through the palms, the faint traces of rituals long abandoned. All of these elements evoke a past that is both tangible and elusive. The Temple of the Oracle embodies the tension between what is known and what remains a mystery, challenging us to consider how civilizations communicate with the unknown and how much of that understanding has been lost or intentionally kept from history. In this place, we are reminded that the allure of archaeology is not merely in the objects unearthed, the walls reconstructed, or the texts translated. It is in the questions that remain, in the spaces between knowledge and uncertainty. What did the priests of Siwa truly understand about the cosmos, about human nature, about the delicate interplay of power, belief, and destiny? And what might yet lie buried beneath the sands, waiting for those willing to look, to interpret, and to wonder? The Temple of the Oracle stands, weathered yet resilient, a testament to the enduring human quest for wisdom and insight. Its mysteries invite us to pause, to reflect, and to consider the limits of what we know and the vastness of what we do not. And as we continue our journey through the most unexplained archaeological enigmas, Siwa remains a silent guardian, holding its secrets beneath the desert sun, daring us to seek answers while reminding us that some truths may forever remain just beyond our reach. From the quiet sands of the Siwa Oasis, where the wind whispers through ancient palms and the Temple of the Oracle guards its millennia-old secrets, we turn now to a site that has long captivated historians, archaeologists, and the curious alike: the Egyptian tomb of Osiris, nestled within the shadow of the Great Pyramids of Giza. Unlike the grand funerary monuments that dominate the plateau, this tomb is smaller, more secluded, yet no less enigmatic. It is said to be a place where the god of the afterlife himself once rested, or at least where mortals sought to commune with his enduring presence. Approaching the tomb, the first sensation is one of quiet reverence. The air is thick with the scent of dust and ancient stone, the heat of the desert pressing down, softened only by the shadow cast by surrounding limestone walls. Carved entrances open into narrow corridors, leading deeper into the bedrock, each step echoing softly in the darkness. Faded hieroglyphs line the walls, depicting scenes of Osiris as ruler of the dead, presiding over judgment and resurrection. Symbols of life and death intertwine: ankhs, djed pillars, and the ever-present eye of Horus, creating an intricate tapestry of belief, ritual, and power. Historical records suggest that this tomb was more than a resting place. It served as a focal point for the Osirian mysteries, a series of religious rituals aimed at understanding the cycle of death and rebirth. Pilgrims would travel from across Egypt seeking initiation and spiritual enlightenment, hoping to witness the transformative power associated with Osiris. Archaeologists have confirmed the presence of ceremonial chambers, altars, and ritual spaces carefully aligned with the cardinal directions, reinforcing the tomb's role not merely as a sepulchre, but as a sacred site designed to mirror cosmic order. Yet even with centuries of study, questions persist. Some inscriptions within the tomb are unusual, featuring symbols not seen elsewhere in Egyptian iconography. Certain chambers are shrouded in darkness, partially collapsed or blocked by stone, leaving their full purpose unknown. Recent ground-penetrating radar surveys have suggested the possibility of hidden corridors or undiscovered chambers, hinting at an architectural complexity that challenges traditional understandings of Old Kingdom construction. Were these hidden spaces purely functional, or did they serve symbolic or ritual purposes beyond our comprehension? The tomb's location adds to its intrigue. Situated near Giza, yet deliberately set apart from the tombs of pharaohs, it suggests an intentional separation, a sacred isolation. Was this remoteness meant to enhance spiritual potency, to create a liminal space where the mortal and divine could intersect? Some scholars argue that the tomb was designed as a microcosm of the underworld itself, a journey inward mirroring the soul's path through death and eventual rebirth. Could the very layout of the chambers encode philosophical or mystical knowledge now obscured by time? Artifacts discovered within the tomb raise further questions. Small figurines, amulets, and ceremonial objects suggest a sophisticated religious practice. Yet some items, crafted from materials not typically found in the region, point to trade networks or influences that remain partially unexplained. A small quartz object, for instance, polished to an almost unnatural clarity, hints at techniques and tools that challenge conventional assumptions about craftsmanship in ancient Egypt. Were these objects purely symbolic, or did they serve a functional role in the rituals performed here? The association with Osiris himself elevates the tomb from archaeological site to something far more mysterious. Osiris, god of death and resurrection, embodies the eternal cycle of life, and to claim proximity to him was to touch a fundamental truth about existence itself. Historical accounts and later mythologies describe priests entering the tomb for initiation, undergoing rites that supposedly conferred insight into the afterlife. Could traces of these rituals, encoded in inscriptions, layout, or artifacts, offer us a glimpse into beliefs and practices now otherwise lost to history? Beyond the tangible, there are unexplained phenomena associated with the tomb. Visitors and researchers have occasionally reported disorienting experiences, changes in perception, sudden temperature fluctuations, and an almost palpable weight in certain chambers. While skeptics attribute these effects to environmental conditions, psychological suggestion, or simple coincidence, the consistency of the reports invites reflection. Could the tomb's design have been intended to evoke altered states of consciousness, to guide participants through a symbolic passage mirroring Osiris's own journey through death and rebirth? The Egyptian tomb of Osiris thus occupies a liminal space, straddling the line between history and myth. Its walls speak of devotion, fear, and aspiration, yet they also conceal secrets that may never be fully revealed. Each discovery seems to answer one question only to raise many more. How much of what we see today reflects the tomb's original purpose, and how much has been altered by the passage of time, natural erosion, or human intervention? And if there are hidden chambers yet to be explored, what knowledge or artifacts might they contain, silently waiting beneath layers of stone and sand? As we stand in the dim light filtering through the tomb's corridors, it becomes clear that the true mystery is not only in the tomb itself, but in what it represents: humanity's eternal fascination with life, death, and the possibility of something beyond. The tomb of Osiris challenges us to consider the sophistication of ancient belief systems, the skill of those who constructed sacred spaces, and the questions that endure across millennia. What can this place tell us about the people who built it, the rituals they performed, and the truths they sought to uncover. And perhaps more compellingly, what might still lie hidden just beyond our reach, waiting for those with the patience, curiosity, and courage to discover it. In the shadow of the Giza Plateau, among pyramids that have long captivated the imagination of the world, the Egyptian tomb of Osiris endures as a silent guardian of secrets. Its chambers, inscriptions, and artifacts invite us to look closer, think deeper, and wonder without end, reminding us that some mysteries are not solved by answers alone, but by the questions they continue to inspire. From the shadowed corridors of the Egyptian tomb of Osiris, where the mysteries of death and resurrection whisper through carved stone, our journey now moves north, across continents and millennia, to a landscape transformed not by desert sands, but by the rolling fields of modern-day Germany. Here, amidst the quiet plains of Saxony-Anhalt, lies a site that has puzzled archaeologists and historians alike for decades. The Goseck Circle, one of the oldest known circular enclosures in Europe, dating back more than 7,000 years. Unlike the pyramids of Giza or the temples of Siwa, Goseck is neither massive nor ornate, yet its precision and purpose resonate with an almost inexplicable sophistication, hinting at knowledge and practices far beyond what we might expect from Neolithic societies. Approaching the site, the first impression is deceptively simple. From above, the Goseck Circle appears as a series of concentric ditches and palisades, wooden posts marking precise intervals along its circumference. In the low winter light, shadows stretch across the enclosure, and the lines of the circle seem to hold a quiet energy, as if the land itself remembers the ceremonies once performed here. Walk along the earthworks, and it is easy to imagine gatherings long ago, communities assembling for ritual, observation, and celebration, their movements choreographed to rhythms dictated by the sun and the seasons. Archaeological studies have revealed that Goseck is more than a mere boundary. Its design is strikingly precise. The openings in the circle align with the sunrise and sunset on the winter solstice. In effect, the Goseck Circle functions as one of the earliest known solar observatories, marking a profound awareness of the changing seasons, essential for agriculture and survival. Yet, the precision is remarkable, especially considering the tools available to Neolithic communities. How did they achieve such alignment with the heavens? And what rituals, beliefs, or knowledge might these celestial observations have supported? The circle's alignment raises intriguing questions. Some experts argue that the builders understood not only the movement of the sun, but also had an intuitive grasp of the calendar year, using the circle to organize agricultural cycles and communal gatherings. Others suggest a spiritual dimension, that the sunrise and sunset at solstices were imbued with symbolic significance, representing cycles of life, death, and renewal, a thematic echo, perhaps, of the Osirian mysteries far to the south in Egypt. Could it be that the observation of celestial patterns and the structuring of sacred spaces around them is a universal human impulse, transcending geography and culture? Material evidence from excavations adds another layer of intrigue. Charred remnants of wood, pottery shards, and traces of ceremonial fire pits suggest that the circle was more than an astronomical tool. Feasts, rituals, and possibly even initiatory ceremonies may have taken place within its boundaries. Yet the purpose of these activities remains open to interpretation. Were they purely practical, intended to guide agricultural work? Or did they serve a deeper spiritual function, connecting early humans with forces they could observe but not fully understand? The construction techniques themselves are a testament to the ingenuity of Neolithic societies. Post holes, some more than a meter deep, were dug with remarkable uniformity, suggesting planning, communal labor, and an understanding of structural stability. The labor required to move and erect these timbers indicates a society capable of coordination on a scale far beyond what might be expected for a settlement of this era. How was knowledge transmitted across generations to achieve such precision? And if we are impressed today, what must it have meant to the people who first experienced the circle in its prime? Beyond the physical evidence, speculation abounds. Some researchers have proposed that Goseck was part of a broader network of prehistoric ritual sites, linked through shared knowledge of astronomy and geometry. Others suggest symbolic interpretations. The circle as a portal, a sacred boundary separating the mundane from the divine, or a microcosm representing the cosmos itself. While these ideas remain unproven, they underscore the profound impression the site leaves on those who study it. The Goseck Circle is not merely a relic of the past. It is an invitation to imagine the worldview of people who lived thousands of years before written history. What is striking about Goseck, as with many ancient sites, is the balance between what is known and what remains mysterious. The basic layout, post alignments, and solstice connections can be measured and mapped, yet the rituals, beliefs, and meanings behind them elude certainty. Some have even drawn speculative parallels to later megalithic structures, such as Stonehenge, raising questions about the continuity, or recurrence, of human fascination with the heavens. Could there have been a shared understanding of celestial cycles across Europe long before written records? Or are these similarities coincidental, emerging from universal human needs to track time, seasons, and survival? Standing within the circle today, amid the flattened fields and quiet winter wind, one is struck by a sense of temporal dislocation. It is easy to envision the voices of long-dead communities, their songs and chants filling the air, their eyes trained on the horizon as the sun rises and sets in perfect alignment. What thoughts, fears, and aspirations guided them as they erected this monumental circle? And what knowledge might be lost forever, buried in soil or memory, waiting to be rediscovered? The Goseck Circle endures as a testament to early human ingenuity, ritual, and curiosity, a site that challenges our assumptions about prehistoric societies and their relationship with the cosmos. It reminds us that even in times before written language, humans sought to understand their world, to mark the cycles of life and nature, and to construct spaces that were both practical and sacred. And as we leave the quiet plains of Goseck behind, we carry with us a renewed awareness that the mysteries of our ancestors are never entirely lost, and that each discovery, each excavation, opens a door not just to knowledge, but to deeper questions that continue to inspire wonder. From the rolling plains of Goseck, where Neolithic communities marked the cycles of the sun with extraordinary precision, our journey returns once more to the deserts of Egypt, to a landscape both ancient and enigmatic. Far to the south, in what is now the Nubian desert, lies Nabta Playa, a site that has captured the imagination of archaeologists and historians for decades. Here, on a flat expanse of cracked earth surrounded by shifting sands and rocky outcrops, remnants of one of the earliest known ceremonial complexes in the world lie buried beneath the desert floor. It is a place where time itself seems to pause, where the distant horizon stretches endlessly, and where the ingenuity of early humans whispers through stones arranged with deliberate care. Approaching Nabta Playa, the first impression is deceptively simple: scattered megaliths, circles, and alignments etched into the earth, some no taller than a person, others rising with a quiet, commanding presence. The sun beats down on the desert surface, illuminating stone arrangements that at first seem random, yet upon closer examination reveal a pattern, a hidden order. Archaeologists have documented stone circles, oval structures, and rows of aligned megaliths that suggest the site was more than a settlement. It was a carefully constructed ceremonial and possibly astronomical center. The air here carries the weight of millennia, a silent testimony to the rituals, observations, and intentions of those who lived here as early as 6,000 years ago. Nabta Playa is often described as one of the world's earliest known astronomical sites. Certain stone alignments correspond to the positions of key stars, most notably Sirius, whose rising signaled the inundation of the Nile, a crucial event for agricultural societies. Other stones mark the solstices, creating a primitive yet remarkably accurate calendar. For a society without written language or metal tools, the precision is astonishing. How did these communities achieve such exactness in observing celestial phenomena? And what motivated them to embed this knowledge into stone in a remote desert that even today is sparsely populated? The complexity of the site deepens the mystery. Excavations have revealed evidence of a cattle cult, with ceremonial burials and artifacts indicating that Nabta Playa was both a spiritual and social hub. Tumuli and stone-lined graves suggest rituals associated with death and ancestral veneration. Pottery fragments and stone tools testify to daily life, yet their placement near ceremonial structures hints at symbolic or ritual significance. Were these early Egyptians recording their cosmology in stone? Were they seeking to harmonize human activity with the movement of the heavens? Or did the alignments serve purposes we can no longer discern, perhaps encoded with meanings lost to time? Some of the stones themselves defy easy explanation. Several megaliths are exceptionally large and precisely shaped, requiring significant effort to quarry, transport, and position. The tools used, rudimentary by modern standards, raise questions about the techniques employed. Could simple stone tools alone account for the careful shaping and placement? Or does this suggest a level of planning, communal coordination, and perhaps knowledge of physics and astronomy that challenges conventional assumptions about prehistoric societies? Beyond the stones and burials, Nabta Playa resonates with mystery through what is absent as much as what is present. Unlike later Egyptian sites, there are no elaborate temples or inscriptions, yet the sophistication of the alignments and structures indicates a culture capable of complex observation and ritual. Could it be that Nabta Playa represents a lost chapter in the evolution of Egyptian civilization, a precursor to the monumental constructions that would later define the Nile Valley? And if so, what ideas, beliefs, or knowledge were preserved here, only to be transformed and expanded upon in later dynastic Egypt? Speculation and hypothesis have only added layers to the intrigue. Some researchers suggest that Nabta Playa functioned as a proto-observatory, a place where early humans tracked the heavens, predicted seasonal cycles, and aligned their spiritual practices with cosmic order. Others propose that it served as a pilgrimage site, a center for social and ceremonial cohesion among scattered desert communities. More speculative voices have even suggested connections to extraterrestrial influence, given the seemingly advanced astronomical knowledge, though these claims remain unverified and remain on the fringes of mainstream scholarship. Yet, even without such speculation, the mystery of Nabta Playa is compelling. It demonstrates that human curiosity, ingenuity, and reverence for the cosmos extend back thousands of years, challenging modern perceptions of prehistoric life. The desert wind sweeps across the flat plains, stirring dust and small stones as if carrying messages from the distant past. One can almost imagine the people of Nabta Playa gathering beneath the scorching sun, raising stones to mark the movement of stars, performing rituals to honor their gods, and contemplating the cycles of life and death that governed their world. What thoughts passed through their minds? What fears and hopes guided their hands as they arranged the megaliths? And what knowledge, encoded in these stones, may still be hidden beneath layers of sand and time, waiting to be uncovered? Nabta Playa reminds us that the mysteries of human history are not confined to monumental tombs or gilded temples. Sometimes they lie in the subtle interplay between stone, sky, and human intention, in remote places where survival and spirituality intersected in ways both practical and profound. The site challenges us to reconsider what we know about prehistoric societies, their intellectual capacities, their social structures, and their relationship with the cosmos. It asks us to look beyond artifacts and remains, to interpret the choices of early humans not merely as functional, but as expressions of thought, belief, and wonder. As we leave the sun-baked plains of Nabta Playa, the questions linger. How much of this ancient knowledge has been lost, and how much can still be rediscovered through careful study? Did the people who built Nabta Playa glimpse truths about the universe that elude us today? And if the answers remain just beyond reach, what does that say about the enduring mystery of humanity itself, our unbroken fascination with the heavens, and the ways we seek to mark our place within them? In the vast, empty expanse of the Nubian desert, Nabta Playa stands as a testament to the ingenuity, spirituality, and curiosity of early civilizations. A site that continues to challenge, inspire, and remind us that some of the greatest archaeological mysteries are not only those we have yet to solve, but those we may never fully understand. From the sun-scorched deserts of Egypt, where ancient stones mark the rhythms of the heavens, we now journey across oceans and continents to the misty shores of North America. Here, amid the dense forests and shifting tides of the Outer Banks in present-day North Carolina, lies a story that has perplexed historians for over 4 centuries: the Mystery of Roanoke, the so-called Lost Colony. Unlike the monumental ruins of Nabta Playa or the precise alignments of Goseck, the remnants of Roanoke are subtle: traces of settlements, fragments of tools, and the whispers of a people who vanished almost entirely without a trace. Yet it is precisely this absence, this void in the historical record, that gives the site its enduring power and haunting allure. Approaching the area today, the landscape appears serene, almost timeless. Marshes ripple with reeds, waves lap against sandy shores, and the wind rustles through towering oaks and pines. It is easy to imagine the small wooden palisades, the homes built from timber, and the people who once lived here, men, women, and children attempting to carve a new life in a foreign and often unforgiving land. Yet, unlike other colonial settlements, Roanoke presents an almost perfect absence. By the time supply ships returned in 1590, the colony had vanished, leaving behind only the enigmatic word Croatoan carved into a post, and a few scattered traces of habitation. The historical record is meticulous in some ways, yet maddeningly incomplete in others. Led by John White, the colony was established under the auspices of Sir Walter Raleigh as England's first attempt to plant a permanent settlement in the New World. Initial relations with local Native American tribes were reportedly cordial, and the settlers began constructing homes, cultivating land, and attempting to adapt to their environment. Yet political turmoil in England delayed resupply efforts, and when White finally returned, the colony had disappeared entirely. There were no signs of battle, no mass graves, no definitive evidence of what became of the colonists. Archaeologists have spent decades attempting to piece together clues. Excavations at Roanoke and surrounding areas have uncovered fragments of pottery, tools, and other artifacts, some of which suggest continued habitation nearby. Yet the evidence is inconclusive, leading to a variety of hypotheses. Did the settlers integrate with local tribes, their identities absorbed into larger communities? Were they forced to relocate due to scarcity of resources or hostile conditions? Or did some other, more mysterious event befall them, leaving no clear trace? Each theory offers tantalizing possibilities, yet none provides certainty. Some clues invite further speculation. The carving of Croatoan has fueled debate for centuries. Some historians interpret it as a reference to the nearby Croatoan island, suggesting the colonists moved deliberately to an area inhabited by allied Native Americans. Others propose it was a warning or message left in haste, perhaps hinting at dire circumstances. Yet the absence of additional markings or messages deepens the puzzle, leaving open the question: if the settlers had relocated, why leave no further trace of their presence? Environmental and ecological factors may also hold partial answers. The Outer Banks region is vulnerable to hurricanes, shifting tides, and dense forests, which could have both obscured evidence and presented significant challenges to survival. But even accounting for environmental hardships, the scale of disappearance seems extraordinary. Could a small group of settlers, skilled in construction and agriculture, simply vanish into the wilderness without leaving more substantial evidence? Or does this point to a combination of factors, ecological, social, and perhaps even unforeseen, that conspired to erase their presence from history? Some researchers have explored the possibility of integration with native tribes, citing oral histories and subtle archaeological hints of European artifacts in indigenous contexts. These findings suggest that at least some colonists may have survived, adapting to life within native communities. Yet this theory, while compelling, is difficult to verify conclusively. How many survived and for how long? And what became of their distinct identities, language, and culture once merged into existing populations? Over the years, the story of Roanoke has inspired more speculative narratives, each attempting to fill the gaps left by historical silence. Legends of hidden gold, mysterious disappearances, or secret exoduses have circulated, though often with little evidence. Yet even within the bounds of rigorous scholarship, the mystery persists. The combination of detailed colonial records, the sudden disappearance, and the haunting lone clue of Croatoan creates a puzzle that continues to resist resolution. Standing today on the sandy shores where the colony once existed, it is possible to feel a connection to those vanished lives. One can imagine the hopes, fears, and determination of men and women striving to survive in an unfamiliar land, building homes, tending crops, and raising children, all under the constant shadow of uncertainty. What did they experience in their final days? Did they leave willingly, seeking safety, or were they driven by desperation into the surrounding wilderness? And even if some survived, how did their stories evolve, lost to time and woven into the fabric of native communities? The Mystery of Roanoke is a reminder that not all archaeological enigmas are marked by stones or megaliths. Sometimes they are defined by absence, by the tantalizing gap between the known and the unknown. It challenges us to consider how fragile human endeavors can be, how easily history can vanish without leaving a trace, and how the quest for understanding often encounters more questions than answers. What became of the lost colony? Did they vanish entirely, or did their legacy continue in ways subtle and hidden, woven into the lives of those who came after? As we leave the Outer Banks, the echoes of Roanoke linger, a story of ambition, survival, and profound mystery. The vanished settlers challenge us to imagine, to question, and to explore the boundaries of what we can know about the past. And as we continue our journey through the most unexplained archaeological mysteries, Roanoke reminds us that sometimes the greatest enigmas are found not in what remains, but in what has disappeared, leaving only traces of a story that continues to haunt the imagination. From the misty shores of North Carolina, where the vanished settlers of Roanoke leave behind more questions than answers, we journey inland along the Mississippi River to a region once alive with the hum of a civilization that rivaled the great cities of its time, Cahokia. Situated near present-day St. Louis, Missouri, the Cahokia Mounds stand as silent witnesses to a society that flourished between the 9th and 13th centuries CE. Unlike the wooden posts and subtle traces of Roanoke, Cahokia presents a monumental testament to human ingenuity, ambition, and mystery. a sprawling complex of earthworks, plazas, and ceremonial structures whose sheer scale continues to astonish archaeologists and historians alike. Approaching the site today, the view is at once serene and imposing. Rolling green fields stretch as far as the eye can see, punctuated by massive earthen mounds rising from the landscape like deliberate echoes of the past. The largest, Monk's Mound, towers more than 100 feet above the surrounding plain, its base covering more than 14 acres. From the summit, one can imagine the city that once thrived below. Wooden structures arranged along broad avenues, bustling plazas filled with people, and ceremonial centers where rituals and governance intertwined. Yet, for all its size, Cahokia's purpose and ultimate fate remain shrouded in mystery, leaving us to piece together its story from the silent earth itself. Archaeological evidence reveals a society of remarkable complexity. Cahokia appears to have been home to tens of thousands, making it the largest pre-Columbian city north of Mexico. Its inhabitants constructed mounds with precision, organized around a central plaza, suggesting sophisticated planning and social hierarchy. Artifacts indicate trade networks stretching hundreds of miles, linking Cahokia to distant regions for copper, shells, and stone tools. How did this city arise in relative isolation, achieving such scale and organization without written records or metal tools? What cultural and technological innovations allowed its people to thrive in a landscape both challenging and dynamic? The alignments of the mounds add a layer of profound intrigue. Some appear to correlate with celestial events, such as solstices and lunar cycles, suggesting an advanced understanding of astronomy. These alignments may have informed agricultural cycles, ritual observances, or governance, blending the practical with the spiritual. Yet, the exact methods by which Cahokians achieved this precision remain debated. Were these intentional alignments the product of meticulous observation over generations, or do they hint at knowledge now lost? A glimpse of a worldview in which human life and the cosmos were inseparably intertwined. The societal and spiritual dimensions of Cahokia deepen the mystery. Burials and artifacts indicate that elite rulers may have exercised both political and religious authority, governing a population whose size and density would challenge even modern administrators. The so-called wood henge, a series of upright wooden posts arranged in concentric circles, appears to have functioned as a calendar or observatory, yet its full significance remains elusive. Did it guide daily life, ritual ceremonies, or seasonal festivals? And what beliefs shaped the society that erected such a vast and precise city in the heart of North America? Despite its achievements, Cahokia was not permanent. By the 14th century, the city experienced a dramatic decline, with mounds abandoned and structures left to the encroaching forest. Scholars debate the causes. Environmental stress, resource depletion, social upheaval, or disease may all have played a role. Yet the swiftness of its decline, contrasted with the sophistication of its construction, leaves room for speculation. How could a city so large, so well planned, seemingly vanish within a few generations? Did the people disperse, integrating into smaller communities, or was there a catastrophe that erased much of their presence from the historical record? Artifacts recovered from Cahokia provide glimpses into daily life, yet raise as many questions as they answer. Intricately carved figurines, copper ornaments, and stone tools point to both ritual and practical craftsmanship. Some items, such as ceremonial masks and exotic trade goods, suggest connections with distant cultures, implying either long-range travel or complex networks of exchange. How did these connections shape Cahokian society, its beliefs, and its interactions with neighboring peoples? Could some of the knowledge embedded in these artifacts have been lost as the city declined, leaving only fragments for us to interpret? Even the scale of the mounds themselves remains a puzzle. The labor required to construct Monk's Mound and the surrounding earthworks was immense, likely involving thousands of workers over decades. What social structures enabled such coordinated effort? Was there central authority, communal organization, or a combination of both? And what motivated such monumental construction? Was it purely functional, symbolic, religious, or a synthesis of all three? The answers remain tantalizingly out of reach, embedded in the very earth that has survived the centuries. Standing amid the mounds today, the imagination is inevitably drawn to the lives once lived here. Children running along the avenues, artisans shaping clay and copper, priests or rulers overseeing ceremonies. These images are evoked by the very geometry of the city itself. And yet, as with Roanoke or Nabta Playa, much of Cahokia's story remains untold. The absence of written records challenges us to reconstruct history through indirect evidence, to interpret patterns in earth and artifact, and to consider the motivations, fears, and aspirations of a people whose voices are silent yet persistent through the ages. Cahokia reminds us that human history is not linear, nor is it always predictable. Great civilizations can rise, achieve remarkable feats, and fade from prominence, leaving behind structures that provoke awe and questions that endure. What exactly led to Cahokia's rise and fall? What knowledge, skills, and beliefs allowed such a city to exist in what we now consider the pre-Columbian frontier of North America? And how much more remains hidden beneath the soil, waiting for archaeologists and historians to uncover, interpret, and perhaps ultimately understand? In the shadows of Monk's Mound, the city endures not as a relic frozen in time, but as a living mystery. It challenges us to consider the capacities of early societies, the complexity of human organization, and the fleeting nature of civilization itself. And as we continue our exploration of the most unexplained archaeological mysteries across the world, Cahokia stands as a reminder that even in places familiar to us, the past retains secrets that beckon us to look closer, think deeper, and wonder without end. From the sprawling plains of Cahokia, where monumental earthworks rise like echoes of a lost civilization, we now turn westward into the rugged canyons and plateaus of the American Southwest. Here, amid the red sandstone cliffs and narrow mesas, the ancestral Puebloans, often called the Anasazi, crafted dwellings that seem almost suspended between earth and sky. These cliff dwellings, carved into alcoves and overhangs, are remarkable not only for their architecture, but for the mysteries they hold. Intricate communities built into seemingly inaccessible rock faces, abandoned with little explanation centuries ago, leaving behind structures that continue to confound archaeologists and captivate the imagination. Approaching sites such as Mesa Verde, Bandelier, or Canyon de Chelly, the first impression is one of awe. Multi-storied stone dwellings cling to cliffs hundreds of feet above canyon floors, connected by ladders, narrow pathways, and precarious ledges. Sunlight casts long shadows across ancient masonry, revealing doorways, storage rooms, and ceremonial kivas, circular subterranean chambers that suggest both spiritual and social significance. The harmony of these structures with their natural surroundings is striking, their builders exploiting every alcove, overhang, and crevice to create functional, enduring communities. Yet for all their sophistication, these sites evoke a profound sense of absence. The people who built and inhabited them vanished, leaving questions that remain unanswered. The ancestral Puebloans flourished in this region for centuries, developing complex agricultural systems, intricate pottery, and extensive trade networks spanning the Southwest. Corn, beans, and squash were cultivated in terraced fields, while turquoise, shells, and other materials indicate far-reaching exchanges. The cliff dwellings themselves represent a remarkable feat of engineering and social organization, requiring coordinated labor, knowledge of stone masonry, and careful planning to adapt to the vertical landscape. How did these communities balance the demands of survival, agriculture, and construction in such challenging terrain? And why, after generations of thriving, were these settlements abandoned so abruptly? Archaeological evidence suggests multiple contributing factors, yet no single explanation fully resolves the mystery. Drought and resource depletion likely placed severe stress on these communities, while internal social pressures may have further complicated survival. Environmental studies show periods of prolonged aridity that could have undermined agriculture, yet the speed and scale of abandonment hint at more than mere hardship. Did these people migrate voluntarily to more fertile lands, or were they compelled by conflict, disease, or other forces beyond their control? The dwellings themselves continue to provoke speculation. Some sites are remarkably defensible, with entrances accessible only by ladders or narrow ledges, suggesting concerns over security or conflict. Other structures appear ceremonial, with kivas and plazas indicating communal gatherings, ritual practices, and cosmological observances. The precise alignment of some rooms and doorways with celestial events, sunrises, solstices, and lunar cycles, further suggests an advanced awareness of astronomy, woven into the very architecture. What role did these celestial connections play in daily life, spiritual practice, or social organization? And how much of this knowledge has been lost with the departure of the inhabitants? Artifacts recovered from the cliff dwellings add both clarity and mystery. Pottery fragments, stone tools, and woven textiles reveal sophisticated craftsmanship and cultural expression. Yet certain items, ceremonial objects, exotic trade goods, and intricately carved figurines suggest layers of meaning and connection that remain difficult to interpret fully. How were these objects used? Did they hold purely practical value, or did they serve symbolic, ritualistic, or even esoteric purposes that are now obscured by time? The mystery of the Anasazi is heightened by the scale and abruptness of their disappearance. Some estimates suggest that thousands of people lived in these cliff communities at their peak. Within a relatively short period, these settlements were abandoned, leaving no written records, no mass graves, and only traces of human activity. Where did the people go, and how did they adapt to new environments? Did they integrate with neighboring populations, passing on cultural knowledge in ways that survive subtly in modern Pueblo traditions? Or did elements of their culture, technology, and spiritual practice fade entirely, leaving us only with stone and shadow as testimony? The cliff dwellings also challenge modern perceptions of human resilience and ingenuity. Carving multi-story homes into vertical rock faces requires not only technical skill but profound understanding of structural integrity, resource management, and community cooperation. Water collection, waste disposal, and access to arable land were all critical considerations. Yet these communities thrived for centuries. What does this tell us about the intellectual and cultural sophistication of the ancestral Puebloans? And why do so few traces of their ultimate fate remain? Standing today on a narrow ledge or peering into a shadowed alcove, it is easy to feel a connection to those who once inhabited these cliffs. One can imagine daily life. Children navigating precarious ladders, elders performing ceremonies in kivas, and families tending terraces of crops far below. Yet alongside this vision comes a profound sense of absence, of questions left unanswered by the passage of centuries. Why abandon homes built so carefully, perched in harmony with the land? What pressures, visible or invisible, drove the Anasazi to leave? The Anasazi cliff dwellings remind us that archaeology is not solely about discovery, but about interpretation and imagination. Even in the absence of written records, the stones speak of human resilience, ingenuity, and the complex relationship between environment, society, and belief. And yet the unanswered questions linger. inviting us to wonder about the choices, struggles, and knowledge of the people who once lived here. As we step back from the cliffs, leaving the sunlit alcoves and shadowed kivas behind, one is struck by a sense of humility and curiosity. The ancestral Puebloans shaped the cliffs in ways that endure, yet their story is incomplete, leaving echoes of a culture that thrived, adapted, and disappeared. What remains hidden in these canyons, etched in stone or memory, waiting for us to uncover? And how much of their wisdom, practice, and worldview may have been lost to the winds of time, leaving us with questions as enduring as the cliffs themselves. From the sun-baked cliffs of the American Southwest, where the ancestral Puebloans built their homes in precarious harmony with the earth, our journey moves southward into the dense jungles of the Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico, a land of towering ceiba trees, hidden cenotes, and shadows that have witnessed centuries of human history. Here, the Maya left behind not only monumental cities of stone and intricate carvings, but also a subterranean world that continues to fascinate and perplex researchers. The Underworld caves, or Sac Beob, sacred spaces where water, rock, and ritual converge to create portals into the unknown. Entering these caves, the first sensation is one of both wonder and unease. Darkness envelops the narrow passageways, broken only by beams of light filtering through natural openings or the flicker of torches from early explorers. Stalactites drip slowly into crystal-clear pools, echoing softly against the cavern walls. The air is cool and damp, carrying the scent of earth and mineral, a reminder that these are spaces shaped over millennia, untouched and yet intimately linked to human presence. Carvings and offerings found deep within suggest that the Maya considered these caves as entrances to Xibalba, the underworld, a realm of both death and transformation, mystery and divine power. Archaeological research has uncovered a wealth of artifacts within these subterranean chambers: intricately carved figurines, jade and obsidian offerings, pottery fragments, and human remains. These finds indicate that the caves were not merely functional spaces, but sacred sites, central to the spiritual and cosmological beliefs of the Maya. Some caves align with the movement of the sun or lunar cycles, suggesting that rituals conducted here were timed with celestial events. Could these alignments represent an understanding of astronomy that is lost to us, or a symbolic connection between the heavens above and the underworld below? The presence of human remains deep within certain caves raises profound questions. Some skeletons show signs of ceremonial placement, while others hint at ritual sacrifice, possibly intended to honor gods or seek favor in matters of fertility, agriculture, or warfare. The Maya cosmology places great significance on the underworld as a source of life and death, yet the specifics of these practices remain elusive. How were these spaces used in daily life, and what did they signify to those who entered them with reverence or fear? Could the caves themselves have been considered living entities, sacred landscapes to be negotiated carefully by the living? Certain cave complexes, such as Aktun Tunichil Muknal, reveal an astonishing level of ritual complexity. Skeletons, including those of children, lie alongside ceramics and stone tools, as if frozen in a moment of spiritual devotion. Stalactites and mineral formations sometimes appear deliberately incorporated into ceremonial areas, creating a fusion of natural and human-made structures. How much of this arrangement was symbolic, designed to represent cosmological principles, and how much reflected the pragmatics of ritual practice? The interplay of rock, water, and light gives these chambers a sense of otherworldly presence, as though the very walls hold memory and intention. Explorers have noted an eerie stillness in the deepest sections of these caves. Sound is absorbed and muted. Light bends in strange ways, and the temperature drops sharply. It is a sensory environment unlike any surface settlement, one that may have amplified the psychological and spiritual impact of rituals conducted within. Could the Maya have intentionally selected these subterranean locations to inspire awe, humility, and a heightened awareness of the divine? And if so, what knowledge or experiences were gained only by entering these shadowed depths? The caves also hint at a broader, enigmatic network. Many are connected to cenotes, natural sinkholes filled with water, which themselves were considered portals to the underworld. Offerings submerged in water suggest that the Maya saw these aquatic passages as conduits for communication with deities or ancestors. Some scholars speculate that these networks formed an intricate ritual geography, linking sacred sites across the landscape and aligning them with cosmological principles. Could these subterranean connections encode information about seasons, water cycles, or celestial patterns, blending practical knowledge with spiritual symbolism? Yet despite extensive study, the caves retain an aura of mystery. Much remains undiscovered due to inaccessibility, risk, and the fragility of artifacts. Many chambers are partially collapsed, submerged, or hidden beneath dense jungle, leaving archaeologists to speculate on the full extent of their use. How many rituals, ceremonies, and offerings remain buried, unseen and unknown, waiting to speak to us across centuries? And how much of Maya cosmology is encoded in these spaces in ways that elude modern interpretation, subtle and symbolic rather than literal? Standing at the entrance to a cave, looking down into the darkness, it is easy to imagine the Maya stepping into this liminal space, guided by firelight, song, or meditation, moving from the world of the living into a sacred underworld. The mind naturally questions what they experienced. Revelations, visions, or profound understanding of life, death, and the cycles that govern both. And as we attempt to interpret their purpose, the caves challenge us to confront the limits of our own knowledge and imagination. The Mayan underworld caves remind us that mystery does not always reside in ruins on open ground, nor in artifacts displayed in museums. Sometimes it is hidden beneath layers of rock and earth, in places deliberately secluded from view, preserved by darkness and reverence. What truths about the Maya, about their spiritual life, their understanding of the cosmos, and their relationship with death, might still lie waiting, unspoken, beneath these stalactites and silent pools? In the stillness of the cave, we are left with a profound sense of wonder and humility. These chambers, carved and consecrated by hands long gone, continue to evoke awe, inviting reflection on the enduring human desire to seek meaning in places that bridge life, death, and the unknown. And as we continue to explore the most unexplained archaeological mysteries of the world, the Mayan underworld caves stand as a reminder that some secrets, though hidden beneath stone and soil, resonate across time, daring us to look deeper, question further, and imagine what might still be hidden in the darkness. From the shadowed depths of the Mayan underworld, where rituals intertwined with water and stone, we now travel across continents and millennia to the cradle of civilization, Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Here, in what is now southern Iraq, lies a fragment of history that continues to puzzle scholars and ignite the imagination: the Sumerian king list. Unlike temples or burial sites, this artifact is a text, a meticulously inscribed record on clay, ancient yet enduring, claiming to enumerate the rulers of Sumer from time immemorial. It is both historical document and mystery, blending fact, legend, and chronology in ways that challenge our understanding of early human civilization. The king list itself is striking. Written in cuneiform on clay tablets, some fragments date back nearly 4,000 years, yet the text describes rulers who reigned for thousands of years before the Great Flood, a cataclysmic event that appears to have shaped subsequent Mesopotamian narratives. The earliest kings are said to have governed for tens of thousands of years, a claim that strains credulity, yet suggests the Sumerians' desire to link their civilization to a cosmic and eternal order. How did these extraordinary numbers arise, and what did they signify to the scribes who painstakingly inscribed them? Were they literal, symbolic, or perhaps encoded with meanings lost to modern interpretation? The king list provides more than names and reigns. It reveals the rise and fall of city-states, Eridu, Bad Tabira, Larak, Sipar, and Shurupak, each granted its own place in the unfolding story of Sumer. Historical and archaeological evidence confirms some of these cities' existence, yet others are known only through textual reference, raising questions about the interplay between memory, myth, and record-keeping. Did the scribes attempt to create a continuous narrative of human history, weaving together fact and legend to legitimize contemporary rulers? Or does the text reflect fragments of older oral traditions, predating written history and hinting at knowledge that has since vanished? What sets the Sumerian king list apart is the blend of verifiable history with the impossible. Some kings are recorded with lifespans exceeding 20,000 years, while later rulers are documented with reigns aligning more closely to historical reality. Archaeologists have correlated later names with dynasties evidenced by excavation, confirming the existence of some rulers and suggesting a remarkable accuracy in certain sections of the list. Yet, the earlier entries remain enigmatic, straddling the boundary between myth and history. Could these extreme lifespans represent symbolic expressions of divine favor or cosmological cycles rather than literal years? And if so, what might this reveal about the Sumerians' worldview, their conception of time, and their understanding of human destiny? The text also hints at profound cultural and spiritual concerns. The king list repeatedly emphasizes divine sanction. Rulers ascend to power under the guidance or mandate of gods, their authority intertwined with cosmic order. This melding of political and spiritual legitimacy suggests that Sumerians saw their history as inseparable from the divine, with kingship serving not merely as governance, but as a bridge between mortals and gods. Did these lists function as more than historical record? Were they instructional, ceremonial, or even apotropaic, intended to preserve order and continuity in a civilization that had witnessed floods, invasions, and upheaval? Scholars have noted the king list's peculiar structure, dividing history into pre- and post-flood eras. This division echoes narratives found in later Mesopotamian epics, most notably the Epic of Gilgamesh, where flood stories, divine intervention, and heroic kings intertwine. Could the king list have influenced subsequent mythologies, serving as a template for the way ancient peoples structured their histories and imagined human origins? And what does this continuity suggest about the transmission of knowledge over millennia, across cultures separated by geography and time? The king list has also sparked more speculative discussions. Some have proposed that the extreme lifespans of early rulers hint at lost technologies, advanced knowledge, or even contact with forces beyond human understanding. While mainstream scholarship remains cautious, the persistence of these ideas underscores the enduring allure of the text. It is at once a concrete artifact, inscribed in clay, and a doorway into questions about the origins, capabilities, and aspirations of early civilizations. Could there be truths embedded in the hyperbolic numbers and divine associations that modern methods are not equipped to interpret? Standing before a fragment of the king list today, one is struck by its dual nature, a record of human achievement and a testament to imagination. Each cuneiform mark represents deliberate effort, a desire to preserve memory across generations. And yet, as with Nabta, Playa, Roanoke, and the cliff dwellings of the Anasazi, much of the context has been lost. What prompted these scribes to inscribe lifespans and reigns in such extraordinary detail? How much of the text reflects factual memory, mythic elaboration, or symbolic cosmology? And what remains hidden in the fragments that have yet to be discovered, still buried beneath the sands of southern Iraq? The Sumerian king list reminds us that history is never purely objective. It is shaped by belief, culture, and human imagination. In a single artifact, we encounter the desire to record, to explain, and to connect human events to the greater cosmos. It challenges modern assumptions about the past, forcing us to ask whether early civilizations possessed knowledge, perspectives, or frameworks of understanding that have been partially lost or misinterpreted. And as we contemplate its meaning, we are invited to consider not only the kings themselves, but the civilization that produced them, and the questions about time, divinity, and human aspiration that endure through the ages. In the quiet halls of a museum, or among fragments held in storage, the king list endures as both artifact and enigma, a tangible link to Sumerians who sought to understand their world, to impose order on the passage of time, and to reconcile human life with the infinite. What secrets remain buried in the clay, waiting for modern eyes to decipher? And how much of our own understanding of human history depends on fragments such as these, echoing from millennia past, hinting at mysteries that may never be fully explained? From the written records of ancient Sumer, where kings' reigns stretch into the impossible and clay tablets bridge myth and history, we now move across oceans and jungles to the tropical landscapes of Central America. Here, in the rolling hills and dense forests of Costa Rica, lie a mystery etched in stone: the giant stone balls, or las bolas. Smooth, perfectly spherical, and astonishingly precise, these enigmatic formations appear scattered across the countryside, their presence provoking questions that have intrigued explorers, archaeologists, and travelers for nearly a century. Unlike texts or dwellings, these artifacts communicate without words. Their language is geometry, balance, and deliberate craftsmanship. Encountering these spheres in person is an almost surreal experience. Some rise from the earth as solitary sentinels, others cluster in seemingly intentional arrangements. Their surfaces, worn smooth by centuries of rain and soil movement, glint in sunlight like polished obsidian, despite being composed primarily of gabbro, granodiorite, and other igneous rocks. Sizes vary dramatically, from modest, human-sized stones to monumental spheres exceeding 2 meters in diameter and weighing several tons. Their perfection and uniformity invite awe, as though an unseen hand shaped them with a precision that challenges the limits of ancient technology. How were these enormous stones carved, transported, and positioned with such accuracy in a landscape of dense forest and uneven terrain? The origins and purpose of the spheres remain elusive. Archaeological consensus attributes them to the Diquis culture, which flourished in southern Costa Rica between 500 CE and 1500 CE. Yet even within this framework, the reasons behind their creation are debated. Were they markers of political or ceremonial power, symbols of social status, or territorial boundaries? Some clusters suggest alignments or patterns, hinting at astronomical or cosmological significance. Could they have been used to track celestial events, map the landscape, or convey knowledge of the stars to those who lived here long ago? Excavations and studies have revealed that some spheres were found in carefully constructed settings, often aligned along axes, suggesting deliberate spatial planning. Other spheres appear in isolation, raising further questions about whether their original arrangement has been disturbed over time. Some researchers propose that the spheres may have represented cosmological or spiritual principles, embodying ideas of harmony, balance, and perfection. In a culture deeply connected to the cycles of nature and celestial observation, might these spheres have served as physical manifestations of metaphysical concepts? The craftsmanship itself is remarkable. Carving perfectly round spheres from dense igneous rock with tools made of harder stone seems almost inconceivable. Yet the Diki people accomplished this, sometimes with minimal evidence of the methods used. Were their techniques lost to time, methods of measurement and transport that we have yet to rediscover? How did they move the largest spheres, some weighing over 15 tons, across the uneven terrain without the benefit of wheels, draft animals, or modern machinery? The giant stone balls also invite speculation about symbolism and social meaning. Some scholars suggest they were status symbols, commissioned by elite families or leaders to demonstrate power, wealth, or influence. Others point to alignment with ceremonial sites and plazas, indicating a role in rituals or public gatherings. Could these spheres have been markers for sacred landscapes, akin to monuments or shrines, serving as conduits between the terrestrial and spiritual worlds? Or were they part of a lost system of measurement or early astronomy, encoding knowledge in ways that are now obscure? Intriguingly, the sheer perfection of the spheres, their near-flawless symmetry, has led some to propose more speculative ideas. Could the Diki have had access to geometric knowledge or technologies now forgotten? Are these spheres purely human-made, or did natural processes assist in their formation, with human refinement enhancing what nature began? Though mainstream archaeology favors human craftsmanship, the mystery of the precision continues to fascinate, leaving ample room for curiosity and wonder. Visiting these spheres today, one senses a silent authority in their presence. They do not speak, yet they command attention. Each stone seems to hold memory, not of battles or kings, but of human intention, careful planning, labor, and an understanding of form that bridges art, mathematics, and ritual. It is easy to imagine the Dikis gathering among them, performing ceremonies, marking seasonal events, or teaching successive generations about the cosmos, the land, and their place within it. And yet, despite these possibilities, the full story remains just out of reach. The mystery deepens when considering the scale of the work. Hundreds of spheres have been documented, scattered across the Dikis Delta, some partially buried or relocated during modern agriculture and construction. How did one culture conceive, plan, and execute such a monumental project? Was this the work of centuries, passed down through generations, or a feat achieved in a concentrated period of organized labor? And how much more remains hidden beneath the jungle floor, waiting to be uncovered and understood? The giant stone balls of Costa Rica remind us that mystery is not always bound to written records, tombs, or temples. Sometimes it lies in the simplest yet most extraordinary objects: a sphere, a circle, a polished stone, suspended in time, inviting us to consider the ingenuity, intention, and vision of those who came before. What did these spheres signify to the people who made them, and what truths have been lost to the passage of centuries? Could understanding them reveal insights into social organization, cosmology, or technology that remain undiscovered? As the sunlight shifts across the hills, illuminating the curves of these silent sentinels, one is left with both awe and curiosity. They endure as timeless witnesses, bridging the natural and the human, the mundane and the sacred. The Diki may have vanished, their cities reclaimed by jungle and their stories fragmented, yet the spheres persist, holding their secrets just beneath the surface. And as we continue to explore the most unexplained archaeological mysteries of the world, these stone spheres remind us that some enigmas are not solved by what we see, but by what we imagine lies within, waiting to be discovered. From the polished stone spheres of Costa Rica, silent witnesses to the ingenuity of the Diki culture, we now journey southward along the Pacific coast of South America to the arid river valleys of Peru. Here, amid the desert plains and the occasional ribbon of fertile land, rise the pyramids of Caral, an ancient city whose monumental architecture predates the Inca by more than a millennium. Walking across this landscape today, one cannot help but feel the weight of time, the quiet persistence of human ambition, and the enduring mysteries that these early pyramids present. The city of Caral, constructed around 2600 BCE, is remarkable not only for its age, but for the sophistication and scale of its architecture. From the ground, the pyramids appear almost timeless, their stepped platforms rising above plazas and residential areas, commanding views across the surrounding valley. Unlike later civilizations, the builders of Caral left no evidence of defensive walls, no records of warfare, yet their city was expansive, home to thousands, with carefully planned civic, ceremonial, and residential zones. How did a society without metallurgy or the wheel achieve such organizational and architectural feats in a challenging environment, where irrigation and agriculture required careful innovation? Approaching the main pyramid, the scale becomes tangible. Its terraces, composed of stone and sun-baked adobe, ascend in deliberate symmetry, suggesting both aesthetic sensibility and engineering acumen. Surrounding plazas hint at communal gatherings, ritual observances, and civic life, while nearby amphitheater-like spaces may have hosted music or ceremonial performances. Evidence of flutes and other musical instruments, alongside complex textile fragments, suggests that Caral was as much a cultural center as it was a hub of administration and subsistence. Could the city's design reflect a cosmological worldview, aligning architecture with the sun, stars, or other natural phenomena, much like other ancient civilizations across the globe? Caral challenges conventional assumptions about the origins of civilization in the Americas. It predates pottery and written records, yet demonstrates urban planning, social hierarchy, and monumental construction. This has led archaeologists to reconsider the conventional timeline of complex societies, suggesting that civilization emerged independently in multiple regions, shaped not by conquest or technology alone, but by human ingenuity and the capacity for organization. How did the people of Caral manage resources, coordinate labor, and sustain a population in a largely desert environment relying on irrigation canals and agricultural terraces? What knowledge, passed down orally, guided their urban and social planning? The pyramids themselves hold clues and provoke questions. Some terraces align with solstices or other celestial markers, hinting at astronomical observation. Others contain ritual spaces, sometimes with offerings of food, shells, and other ceremonial objects. The lack of fortifications is striking. Did Caral achieve stability through social cohesion, religious authority, or some system now lost to history? And what motivated the construction of such monumental structures, if not defense? Was it purely ceremonial, an expression of social hierarchy, or a tangible reflection of cosmological beliefs? Artifacts recovered from Caral illuminate daily life and ceremonial practice, yet deepen the mystery. Shells from coastal regions, textiles, musical instruments, and quipu-like devices for record-keeping suggest a society highly interconnected with its environment and possibly with distant communities. How much of their technological and intellectual achievement remains invisible, encoded in practices, rituals, or knowledge not preserved in stone or written record? And to what extent did these innovations influence subsequent civilizations in the Andes, including the Chavin, Nazca, and ultimately the Inca? Caral also raises questions about the nature of urban permanence and societal collapse. Unlike cities destroyed by conquest or environmental catastrophe, Caral seems to have gradually declined around 2000 BCE, leaving the pyramids and plazas largely intact but abandoned. What precipitated this abandonment? Was it environmental stress, changes in trade or agricultural patterns, social restructuring, or a combination of factors that remain obscured by time? The absence of destruction allows the site to speak across millennia, Yet its silence also frustrates efforts to fully understand the lives and intentions of its builders. The harmony between Caral's pyramids, plazas, and residential sectors suggests deliberate urban planning, reflecting a society capable of organizing labor, resources, and knowledge at a scale previously unimagined for the period. Did these architectural choices encode symbolic or cosmological meaning, reflecting the Maya or Inca practices that would arise later? Or were they purely functional, balancing human needs with environmental constraints? The answers remain tantalizingly just beyond our reach. Walking among the terraces today, it is possible to envision the city as it once was: artisans shaping textiles, farmers tending terraces, musicians filling plazas with ritualized sound, and priests or leaders orchestrating ceremonial life. And yet, despite these glimpses into daily activity, the overarching purpose and worldview of Caral remain elusive. How did the city's inhabitants perceive their place in the cosmos? How did they conceive of leadership, spirituality, and the cycles of life and death? And what knowledge, now lost, guided their remarkable feats of urban and architectural planning? The pyramids of Caral remind us that some mysteries are not merely about the past, but about the human capacity to innovate, organize, and aspire across time. They challenge modern assumptions about the origins of civilization, demonstrating that monumental achievement is not solely a product of writing, metallurgy, or warfare, but of imagination, coordination, and vision. And as we continue our exploration of the most unexplained archaeological mysteries, Caral stands as a testament to human ingenuity, a city of stone, of music, of ritual, whose silent terraces provoke awe and invite endless questions about what has been lost to time and what remains hidden beneath the desert sands. From the desert sands of Caral, where the earliest urban centers of the Americas rose in careful terraces and monumental pyramids, we now turn to a very different kind of landscape, one submerged beneath the waves of the Pacific Ocean. Off the coast of Yonaguni, Japan, beneath the rolling currents and shifting sands, lies a formation that has stirred both fascination and debate for decades: the Yonaguni Monument. At first glance, it appears to be a natural underwater rock formation, but closer inspection reveals terraces, steps, and flat surfaces so precise that some suggest the hand of human design. Here, the ocean itself becomes both a preservative and a veil, hiding structures that challenge our understanding of prehistoric civilizations. Diving into the site, the scale and geometry of the formation are immediately striking. Terraces rise from the seabed in sharp angles, massive platforms interconnect, and long, straight edges cut through the rock with an almost architectural precision. Some structures resemble pyramidal steps, while others suggest walls or roads. The sheer size of the formation is impressive, several meters tall and extending hundreds of meters across the sea floor. Natural erosion patterns might explain portions of the structure, yet the symmetry and alignment of certain features suggest intentional shaping. Could this be a city lost to rising seas at the end of the last ice age, a civilization whose memory was submerged beneath the tides? The controversy surrounding Yonaguni is part of its allure. Mainstream geology argues that the formations are largely natural, sculpted by tectonic activity and wave erosion. Yet proponents of human involvement point to terraces, flat platforms, sharp right angles, and precise parallel lines, arguing that natural processes alone are unlikely to produce such features consistently. Even the largest steps, carved into hard sandstone, require a degree of labor and planning that seems extraordinary for a prehistoric society. How do we reconcile these observations with the absence of other known civilizations in the region at that time? Could we be seeing the remnants of an unknown people, their cities lost to the ocean millennia ago? Artifacts and evidence surrounding the site are scarce, complicating the story further. No definitive tools, ceramics, or inscriptions have been recovered from the submerged terraces, though divers have occasionally found stone objects nearby that some argue could be associated with human activity. Radiocarbon dating of sediment layers suggests the formation could have been above sea level between 10,000 and 12,000 years ago, aligning with the end of the last ice age. If humans did indeed shape Yonaguni, what kind of society could have achieved such monumental construction without leaving other archaeological traces? And what does this imply about our assumptions regarding the spread of early civilizations? The geometry of Yonaguni is particularly compelling. Several formations appear aligned along cardinal directions, and certain terraces resemble plazas or gathering spaces. Some researchers even suggest evidence of staircases and roads, indicating organized movement across the site. If these features are indeed artificial, they may reflect advanced understanding of construction, urban planning, and communal organization far earlier than previously documented in this region. Could the builders have had knowledge of surveying, measurement, and structural engineering that has been lost to time? And if so, what drove them to invest such labor into a city now claimed by the sea? Equally fascinating are the theories that tie Yonaguni to global events. The end of the Ice Age brought rising seas that submerged countless coastal settlements worldwide. Could Yonaguni represent one of many lost civilizations, wiped from history by rising waters? Some scholars suggest that myths and legends of sunken lands, like Mu or Lemuria, may echo distant memories of such submerged cities. While these connections remain speculative, they speak to the human tendency to preserve stories of catastrophe, loss, and hidden knowledge across generations. Could the ocean itself hold countless other secrets, preserving structures and societies yet to be discovered? Exploration of the site is challenging. Strong currents, low visibility, and deep water make archaeological investigation slow and difficult. Divers describe a haunting atmosphere. Terraces stretch into shadowed depths, edges fade into darkness, and sediment occasionally reveals new shapes, only to be obscured by shifting sands moments later. The underwater environment preserves the formation, yet simultaneously hides its full extent, leaving researchers to piece together its story from incomplete observation. How much remains unseen, obscured by layers of oceanic sediment waiting for future technology to reveal it? Standing, or rather hovering, above the Yonaguni monument, one cannot help but feel a sense of both wonder and humility. Here is a formation that forces us to question what we know about early human civilization, about the ability of prehistoric peoples to manipulate the landscape, and about the places that may have been lost to rising seas long before recorded history. Whether natural or shaped by human hands, the monument commands attention, inviting contemplation of time, memory, and the persistence of mystery beneath the waves. The Yonaguni monument challenges us to confront the limits of our knowledge. It is a site that refuses easy categorization, oscillating between geology and archaeology, nature and human intervention. Its terraces, steps, and platforms speak in silence, asking, what lies hidden beneath rising seas, in rivers, and in oceans around the world? How many other civilizations, cities, and monuments have been erased by water, leaving only tantalizing fragments for us to interpret? And what does this imply about our understanding of human history and our place in the long story of civilization? As the sunlight filters through the water, illuminating the sharp angles and sweeping terraces of Yonaguni, one is left with the same awe and curiosity that has driven explorers, divers, and scholars for decades. The site endures as a liminal space between land and sea, past and present, natural and artificial, reminding us that mystery can persist quietly in the depths. And as we continue our exploration of the world's most unexplained archaeological wonders, the Yonaguni monument stands as a silent testament to the enduring enigma of human ingenuity, lost civilizations, and the secrets that may still lie beneath the surface waiting to be revealed. From the submerged terraces of Yonaguni, where ocean currents conceal and reveal enigmas beneath the waves, we turn northward to the rolling landscapes of Central Europe, where a far smaller yet equally enigmatic artifact continues to captivate scholars: the Nebra sky disk. Discovered near the town of Nebra, Germany, in 1999, this bronze disk, scarcely 30 centimeters across, bears symbols that appear at once familiar and inscrutable: golden crescents, disks, and arcs etched with precision into its surface. Despite its modest size, the disk offers a window into a worldview both sophisticated and mysterious, a glimpse of Bronze Age peoples striving to map the heavens long before the advent of telescopes or written astronomy. The disk itself is extraordinary in its artistry and symbolism. Its deep blue-green patina, the result of millennia beneath the earth, contrasts sharply with the gilded inlays that depict celestial bodies. Scholars have identified a crescent moon, a golden sun or full moon, and a cluster of dots believed to represent the Pleiades star cluster. A pair of golden arcs at the edges may correspond to the angle between the solstices as observed from a particular latitude. The precision of these inlays suggests an intimate understanding of the sky, yet the context of the disk, its use, purpose, and the knowledge it represents remains shrouded in mystery. How did Bronze Age peoples, without written mathematical systems or sophisticated instruments, conceive of such celestial relationships? Archaeological studies place the Nebra sky disk in the context of the Unetids culture, around 1600 BCE. Its discovery alongside swords, axes, and ceremonial artifacts indicates it was more than a decorative object. It may have held ritual or astronomical significance, bridging the practical and the sacred. Some researchers argue it functioned as an observational tool, perhaps aligning agricultural or religious activities with celestial events. Others suggest it may have served as a symbolic representation of cosmology, a portable map of the heavens intended to convey knowledge, authority, or ritual power. Could this disk have been a kind of cosmic guide, a miniature observatory encoded in metal and gold? The Pleiades cluster, in particular, recurs across many ancient cultures, from the Americas to the Middle East. Its inclusion on the disk hints at cross-cultural fascination with certain celestial phenomena, suggesting that Bronze Age Europeans were observing patterns and cycles with an attention and sophistication that rivals other ancient astronomers. Yet questions abound. Why were these particular stars highlighted, and what knowledge or stories were attached to them? Did the disk serve an elite priestly class, passing astronomical knowledge from generation to generation, or was it accessible to a wider community, a shared instrument of timekeeping and ritual? Intriguingly, the disk's discovery also reveals the fragility of archaeological knowledge. Buried in a Bronze Age barrow atop the Middleburg Hill, its context was partially obscured, damaged, and scattered, possibly deliberately, perhaps for safekeeping or ritual closure. Nearby, axes and ceremonial items suggest a society deeply attuned to symbolism, yet the exact meaning of the disk remains elusive. Could it represent a convergence of scientific observation and spiritual belief, a fusion of practical astronomy and metaphysical cosmology? And if so, what does this suggest about the intellectual sophistication of Bronze Age Europe, a civilization whose achievements have long been overshadowed by later empires? The disk's design invites reflection on the intersection of observation and imagination. The arcs along its edges, interpreted as solstitial markers, imply awareness of solar cycles, the agricultural calendar, and the rhythm of the seasons. The Pleiades cluster may have guided ceremonial events or navigational practices, and yet no written record explains its exact function. Are we seeing a literal astronomical tool, a symbolic map, or both? Could the Nebra sky disk embody knowledge that was once widespread but has since been lost to time, leaving only tantalizing fragments for modern scholars to interpret? Comparisons with other ancient artifacts deepen the intrigue. Similar astronomical motifs appear in megalithic structures, petroglyphs, and burial goods across Europe and beyond, suggesting that Bronze Age peoples were observing, recording, and perhaps even predicting celestial events with remarkable precision. The Nebra sky disk stands as one of the clearest, most tangible manifestations of this practice, yet its uniqueness also raises questions. Why has no equivalent artifact been found in such pristine detail elsewhere? How much knowledge was encoded in materials that have since deteriorated, leaving the disk as a rare survivor of a broader astronomical tradition? Examining the disk today, one is struck by the interplay of art, science, and spirituality. Its small size belies its conceptual ambition, encapsulating both the grandeur of the cosmos and the human desire to understand and order it. How did its creators conceptualize space, time, and celestial motion without the benefit of modern tools? And what might their worldview, encoded in bronze and gold, tell us about the relationship between human societies and the heavens? The Nebra sky disk is both artifact and enigma, a luminous symbol of human curiosity and ingenuity. Its discovery challenges assumptions about the sophistication of early European societies and invites us to consider how knowledge, observation, and ritual intersected in the lives of people long vanished from the earth. And as we contemplate its golden crescents and stellar clusters, questions remain. How many other instruments, tools, or symbols of celestial knowledge have been lost, buried, or destroyed? What does the disk reveal about the minds of our ancestors, and how much of their understanding remains hidden beneath layers of time waiting to be uncovered? In the quiet reflection of a museum or the careful study of a scholar, the Nebra sky disk continues to inspire awe. It reminds us that even a single object, modest in size yet profound in meaning, can illuminate the ambitions, intellect, and imagination of an entire culture. And as we continue our journey through the most unexplained archaeological mysteries, the disk stands as a celestial beacon, a reminder that human curiosity and the drive to understand the universe are as old as civilization itself, and that some secrets, though crafted in gold and bronze, still resist complete revelation. From the celestial patterns etched into the Nebra sky disk, where Bronze Age Europeans sought to map the heavens, our journey now moves across the Mediterranean to a subterranean world that turns our gaze inward, from the cosmos above to the earth below. Beneath the modern city of Paola, Malta, lies the Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni, a labyrinthine network of chambers, passages, and burial niches carved directly from limestone. Discovered in 1902, this subterranean sanctuary has captivated archaeologists, historians, and curious travelers alike, not only for its age, dating back to around 4000 BCE, but for its extraordinary architectural complexity and the mysteries that continue to shroud its purpose. Entering the Hypogeum is like stepping into another dimension. The air is cool and still, carrying the faint scent of earth and stone. Narrow corridors open onto high-ceilinged chambers where walls, smooth and deliberate, curve and taper with precision. Niches carved into the limestone hold the remains of the dead, while elaborate carvings, depressions, and grooves hint at ceremonial or ritual use. Light, when it enters, filters through tiny openings, illuminating the chamber with an almost ethereal glow. Even a brief stay here evokes a profound sense of reverence, as though the very walls are imbued with memory and intention. What compelled prehistoric peoples to carve such an intricate sanctuary beneath the surface, and what experience did they seek to create for those who entered its shadowed halls? The hypogeum is remarkable for both its scale and its sophistication. Its 3 levels, interconnected by narrow staircases and passages, create a complex spatial hierarchy. Some chambers are vast and circular, possibly designed for gatherings or ritual observances, while others are intimate, housing carefully arranged remains. Acoustics are particularly striking. Certain rooms amplify sound in ways that suggest an understanding of resonance and vibration, raising questions about whether music, chant, or ritual speech played a central role in ceremonies conducted here. Could these auditory properties have been intentionally designed to evoke awe, focus attention, or even induce altered states of consciousness during ritual practice? Archaeological investigation has revealed a wealth of artifacts, from pottery and figurines to delicate stone tools, many of which were carefully placed in niches alongside human remains. These finds suggest a complex culture in which burial rites, ceremonial offerings, and symbolic representation were intertwined. Some of the figurines appear stylized in ways that hint at spiritual or cosmological significance, though their precise meaning remains unknown. Did the inhabitants of Malta see the hypogeum as a conduit between the living and the dead, a space to commune with ancestors, or a symbolic passage to the afterlife? One of the most intriguing aspects of the hypogeum is its precise engineering. Walls are smooth and straight, angles are carefully considered, and chambers are ventilated in a way that allows airflow deep underground, a remarkable feat given the tools available to Neolithic builders. How was such precision achieved without modern measurement devices? Was this the work of master builders whose knowledge was passed down orally, or does it reflect a broader tradition of sophisticated subterranean construction now largely lost to history? And why invest so much labor in a structure entirely hidden from the outside world, designed not for habitation, but for ritual and remembrance? The hypogeum's acoustics continue to fascinate researchers. Certain chambers resonate with specific frequencies, amplifying sound in ways that suggest intentional design. Modern experiments with sound in these spaces produce effects that are at once haunting and hypnotic. Did prehistoric peoples discover these acoustic properties by trial and error? Or was this knowledge deliberately encoded into the stone? Were sound and vibration central to spiritual practice, enhancing ceremonies or facilitating meditative or trance-like states? Despite extensive study, many aspects of the hypogeum remain unexplained. The precise meaning of the carvings, the purpose of certain niches, and the full extent of its original layout are uncertain. Some passages may have collapsed or been intentionally sealed, leaving us with an incomplete picture of the sanctuary's scope and function. Could there be chambers yet undiscovered, hidden beneath layers of limestone and soil, holding artifacts, remains, or carvings that would illuminate our understanding of this enigmatic site? The hypogeum of Halsaflieni is more than a burial site. It is a testament to human ingenuity, creativity, and the desire to engage with the sacred. It demonstrates that even in an era long before writing or large-scale urbanization, humans were capable of remarkable architectural vision and symbolic sophistication. How did these ancient builders conceive of space, sound, and ritual in a subterranean environment, and what insights about their worldview might remain buried alongside them? Standing within the chamber known as the Oracle Room, where echoes carry across stone surfaces in almost uncanny ways, it is easy to sense the care, intention, and reverence that went into every carved wall, every niche, every step. The hypogeum challenges modern assumptions about Neolithic societies, reminding us that the line between practicality and symbolism, life and death, may have been fluid in ways we can only begin to imagine. And as we reflect on its mysteries, questions linger. What knowledge, ritual practice or cosmological understanding has been lost to the ages, waiting silently in the shadows of Malta's subterranean sanctuary. The hypogeum endures as both a physical space and a symbol of human curiosity, creativity, and reverence for life, death, and the unknown. It reminds us that some mysteries are not found in the open, but beneath the surface, preserved in silence and stone, offering glimpses into worlds that are at once ancient, profound, and still largely beyond our comprehension. And as we continue our exploration of the world's most unexplained archaeological wonders, the hypogeum stands as a reminder that the Earth itself can hold secrets as profound as those hidden in sky, desert, or ocean, waiting to be discovered, pondered, and imagined. From the subterranean labyrinths of the hypogeum of Hal Saflieni, where Neolithic builders carved sacred spaces into the living rock, we now turn to another artifact of profound mystery, this time shaped not by the subterranean earth, but by the hands of artisans across the cities and countryside of the Roman Empire. Scattered across Europe, from Britain to Hungary, the Roman dodecahedra are small, hollow bronze objects, typically measuring between 4 and 10 centimeters in diameter. Each is fashioned into a 12-faced geometric form, with circular openings of varying sizes on each face, and often adorned with small knobs at each vertex. Despite centuries of discovery, their purpose remains an enigma, a puzzle that continues to intrigue archaeologists and historians alike. Holding one of these dodecahedra, it is immediately striking how deliberate and precise their construction is. The bronze is carefully cast, the faces symmetrical, the holes evenly distributed, and the knobs positioned with meticulous attention. No two examples are identical, yet all adhere to the same basic geometric form. Some are decorated with subtle engravings, while others are entirely smooth. Their lightweight yet durable construction suggests functionality, yet the nature of that function remains elusive. Were they practical tools, ceremonial objects, symbols of status, or instruments of knowledge? Archaeological evidence places these objects in the period roughly spanning the 2nd to 4th centuries CE. They have been discovered in a variety of contexts, domestic settings, graves, and even rural settlements, suggesting they were not confined to elite circles, yet their small number implies they were not common everyday items. This raises questions about accessibility and significance. Who used these objects, and for what purpose? Were they utilitarian, scientific, spiritual, or perhaps something that combined elements of all three? One of the most striking features of the dodecahedra is the variety in the size of the holes. Some scholars have proposed that these openings may have been used for measurement, perhaps to determine distances, dimensions, or angles. Could they have functioned as an early kind of surveying instrument, used by Roman engineers or artisans to standardize proportions in construction or craftsmanship? Alternatively, the objects may have been connected to textile production. Some hypotheses suggest they could have guided thread or yarn, assisting in weaving or knitting processes. Yet no direct evidence confirms this, leaving their function tantalizingly open to interpretation. Other theories focus on ritual or symbolic use. The geometric perfection and 12-fold symmetry could have held symbolic meaning, reflecting cosmological beliefs or numerological significance in Roman culture. The knobs and holes may have served as markers in religious ceremonies, or as focal points for divination, teaching, or games. Could they have been objects designed to mediate between human activity and a larger cosmological or philosophical order, embodying knowledge in a tangible geometric form? And if so, how much of that knowledge was practical, and how much purely symbolic? The very distribution of these objects across Europe adds another layer of mystery. Found in both urban centers and remote villages, they suggest a network of use and transmission whose full scope we cannot yet reconstruct. Did artisans travel with them, teaching or trading their use? Were they personal possessions or communal objects passed down and shared? And why, despite their apparent significance, did their production abruptly cease by the 5th century, leaving behind only fragments and isolated finds? Some researchers have even speculated that the dodecahedra may have served multiple purposes, combining functionality with ceremonial or symbolic significance. Could they have been portable tools for measuring or calibration, while simultaneously acting as status symbols or ritual objects? Their small size and portability would have allowed them to bridge public and private spheres, existing in domestic, civic, and spiritual contexts. The ambiguity of their use is perhaps their most fascinating quality. In every hole, every knob, every carefully cast edge, there is a story that remains only partially told. Holding one of these objects today, it is easy to be struck by its elegance, simplicity, and precision. Yet these qualities also heighten the mystery. The Romans were a society renowned for engineering, administration, and meticulous record-keeping, and yet the dodecahedra leave no written explanation, no inscription to guide interpretation. Their design, accessible and tactile, communicates in a language we can see but not fully read. How often do objects speak to us in form rather than words, challenging our assumptions about knowledge, utility, and meaning? The dodecahedra invite reflection not only on Roman craftsmanship, but also on human curiosity across time. They remind us that even in highly documented civilizations, some knowledge can be lost, obscured, or rendered mysterious by the passage of centuries. What did the Romans intend us, or their contemporaries, to understand from these objects? Were they everyday tools rendered extraordinary by design, or extraordinary objects whose original function was deliberately obscured? And so, these small bronze artifacts endure as silent witnesses to a vanished past, enigmatic in their geometry and purpose, bridging craftsmanship, intellect, and imagination. Their 12 faces, hollow yet precise, their knobs and apertures, crafted to a perfection that continues to defy simple explanation, invite us to wonder how much knowledge, practice, and culture has been lost to time, leaving only fragments like these to challenge our understanding. And in contemplating their form, do we glimpse not just the ingenuity of the Romans, but a universal human impulse, the desire to shape, measure, and make sense of the world in ways that are both practical and profoundly mysterious? The Roman dodecahedra remain, in their quiet, deliberate geometry, a testament to human curiosity, skill, and the enduring allure of the unexplained. They remind us that mystery need not be monumental in scale. Sometimes it is small, portable, and deceptively simple, yet capable of provoking thought across millennia. And as we continue to explore the most unexplained archaeological mysteries of the world, these small 12-faced objects urge us to consider how much of history remains hidden in plain sight, and how many secrets, like the dodecahedra themselves, are still waiting for discovery. From the small 12-faced bronze enigmas of Roman Europe, which conceal their purpose in precise geometry and deliberate craftsmanship, we now turn to a mystery etched in stone and standing quietly in the forests of North America. The Kensington Runestone, discovered in 1898 near the town of Kensington, Minnesota, presents a puzzle both physical and historical. A slab of greywack, roughly 76 centimeters tall and 41 centimeters wide, carved with runic inscriptions that claim to tell a story of exploration, survival, and an unlikely journey across the northern continent. Its weathered surface, marked with strange symbols, invites both admiration and skepticism, and continues to stir debate over the origins and authenticity of the message it bears. The stone itself is deceptively simple, yet captivating. Covered in hundreds of runes arranged in neat lines, it purports to recount the travels of a group of Scandinavian explorers in 1362, long before Columbus, or the more widely recognized European expeditions to the Americas. Some characters are familiar to students of Old Norse, while others appear as peculiar deviations, provoking both linguistic and historical inquiry. The grooves, worn smooth by time yet still readable, suggest an intentional and careful carving, though questions remain about the tools and methods employed. Could this stone truly record the journey of medieval Norsemen across the icy forests and plains of Minnesota? Or is it an elaborate forgery designed to tantalize and provoke? Archaeological and historical studies place the stone in a complex context. The region where it was discovered was known to European settlers in the 19th century, raising suspicions about potential modern fabrication. Yet, geological examination of the weathering patterns and lichen growth suggests considerable age, and some features appear inconsistent with a recent origin. How does one reconcile these conflicting observations? Could the stone be authentic, a fragment of a forgotten chapter of exploration? Or is it a product of imagination and ambition, rooted in the cultural fascination with Viking history that permeated the upper Midwest at the time? The inscriptions themselves are equally intriguing. They describe a group of 30 Norse explorers who traveled westward, encountering both hardship and unfamiliar terrain, and record the deaths of some of their party along the journey. The use of runes, combined with a date that precedes most known transatlantic expeditions, challenges conventional historical narratives. If the account is genuine, what does it tell us about the reach of medieval navigation, trade, and exploration? Could Scandinavian seafarers have penetrated the interior of North America centuries before the voyages traditionally credited with discovery? And if so, why does this narrative leave so few traces in the archaeological record beyond this single stone? Linguistic analysis has revealed further layers of mystery. Some runes correspond accurately to medieval Norse usage, while others seem anomalous, potentially indicating regional variation, evolution of language, or misinterpretation. Could the unusual characters represent dialectical differences that are now lost, or were they introduced deliberately, perhaps to obscure the message from unintended readers? Scholars remain divided, with some proposing that anomalies suggest forgery, while others argue that the combination of authentic and irregular features might reflect genuine, undocumented linguistic diversity from a remote period. The broader historical context adds to the enigma. The idea of Norse explorers venturing deep into what is now the United States fits tantalizingly with other claims of pre-Columbian European presence, including sagas of Leif Erikson and Vinland settlements along the North Atlantic. Yet no corroborating archaeological evidence, tools, dwellings, or other inscriptions, has been conclusively linked to such inland journeys. How could an expedition of this scale leave only a single inscribed stone to mark its passage? Is it possible that traces of human activity were erased by time, climate, or landscape transformation? Or does the stone instead reflect a cultural myth or a later imagination projecting medieval history onto the New World? The circumstances of the stone's discovery add another layer of intrigue. Found by a Swedish-American farmer named Olof Oman, it emerged during a period when Scandinavian communities were keenly interested in asserting historical presence in America. This historical lens has led some to question whether social and cultural factors contributed to the stone's creation. Yet even skeptics must contend with the detailed inscriptions and the weathering patterns, which defy simple explanation. Could it be that the Kensington Runestone straddles the boundary between myth and history, blending elements of both into a singular artifact that resists categorization? Holding the stone, or even examining photographs of it today, one is struck by the palpable tension between doubt and possibility. Each rune carved into the hard stone speaks of intention, narrative, and human experience. Whether the work of medieval explorers, 19th century imagination, or some unknown combination, It evokes the universal human impulse to document, to communicate across time, and to assert presence in an unfamiliar world. What drove its creation, and what stories lie hidden between the lines? Could other artifacts remain buried, waiting to confirm or complicate the account? Or is this stone a solitary witness to events we may never fully reconstruct? The Kensington Runestone endures as a provocative enigma, challenging assumptions about exploration, historical certainty, and the traces of human endeavor across time. It reminds us that even a single artifact can destabilize accepted narratives and invite us to consider possibilities long overlooked. Was it carved by medieval travelers, a forgotten chapter in the story of transatlantic contact? Or is it a clever artifact of cultural imagination, a reflection of human fascination with discovery and heritage? And most tantalizing of all, what might still be hidden in the forests of Minnesota or elsewhere in the Americas, waiting to reveal that history is often more complex, mysterious, and layered than we dare to imagine? As the mist rolls gently over the rugged, windswept fields of Brittany in the northwest corner of France, an eerie alignment of stones begins to emerge from the haze. The Karnak stones, thousands of megalithic monoliths arranged in precise rows stretching for miles, stand like silent sentinels, frozen in time. Each stone, weathered by millennia of wind and rain, carries the faint whisper of an ancient civilization long vanished, leaving behind a message we are still struggling to read. Here, in this remote landscape, the ordinary rules of history seem to bend, and the line between human ingenuity and enigmatic purpose blurs. The sheer scale of Karnak is staggering. Over 3,000 standing stones, or menhirs, are scattered across more than 4 kilometers of Breton countryside. Some rise barely a meter above the ground, while others tower over 4 meters, their surfaces etched with faint, almost imperceptible carvings, spirals, circles, and crosses whose meaning remains elusive. Archaeologists have studied this site for centuries, yet despite extensive excavation and analysis, the purpose behind these stones continues to defy a simple explanation. Were they territorial markers, sacred monuments, or something far more intricate, a language of stone that has been lost to time? Most mainstream researchers agree that the stones date back to the Neolithic period, between 4,500 and 3,300 BCE. They suggest that the alignments were constructed with incredible care, reflecting the social and religious organization of early European communities. Some propose that the rows were intended for ritualistic purposes, perhaps sites of worship or ceremonial gatherings. Others see astronomical significance. Indeed, alignments at Karnak appear to correspond, in some cases, with the movements of the sun and moon, suggesting that these ancient builders possessed a sophisticated understanding of the cosmos. Could it be that the stones served as a calendar, marking solstices and lunar cycles with a precision that still fascinates modern scientists? Yet, for every theory grounded in careful scholarship, there are mysteries that refuse to fit neatly into the historical record. Despite centuries of study, no traces of a large settlement have been found nearby. No tools, no domestic remains, no evidence of the labor required to move and erect these massive stones have been conclusively identified. How could Neolithic people transport such enormous rocks, some weighing several tons, across uneven terrain without the machinery or animals we assume were necessary? Experimental archaeology offers some plausible methods, levers, sledges, and manpower, but the question of why they undertook such immense effort for a purpose that remains partially obscure lingers like a shadow over the fields. Even more perplexing are the patterns themselves. While many rows run parallel, forming neat, almost grid-like sequences, others appear to bend, curve, or cluster in ways that defy simple logic. Some researchers have noticed apparent alignments within alignments, substructures that suggest not only ritual or astronomical use, but possibly a form of prehistoric communication or symbolism we are not yet capable of fully deciphering. Could these configurations encode messages, maps, or sacred knowledge? Or were they designed to interact with the landscape in ways now lost to human memory? Over the centuries, legends have grown around Karnak. Local folklore speaks of stones that were once giants, turned to rock by a curse. Early travelers and chroniclers described the site as enchanted, a place where the veil between the living and the divine seemed thin. While such stories may not carry empirical weight, they underscore a universal reaction to the stones: awe. There is something undeniably profound in the deliberate placement of these monoliths, an intention that transcends ordinary utility and hints at a worldview far more complex than we might initially imagine. Some speculative theories push even further, suggesting that the stones could have been part of an ancient energy grid, a spiritual or geomantic system aligned to the Earth's natural forces. Proponents point to patterns that seem to resonate with electromagnetic anomalies and ley lines, arguing that these structures might have had purposes that modern science cannot yet explain. While such ideas remain controversial, they reflect a persistent human fascination with the idea that the past holds knowledge we have not yet recovered. The Karnak stones are not merely objects to be measured or mapped. They are symbols of endurance, a dialogue across time. Each stone has survived thousands of years, witnessing climate shifts, invasions, and the slow evolution of human society, yet their purpose remains elusive. Archaeologists continue to debate, theorists continue to speculate, and visitors continue to feel an inexplicable pull when standing among the silent monoliths. There is a solemnity here, a recognition that we are confronted by something far older than ourselves, a human achievement whose full meaning is still hidden beneath layers of history and legend. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not just why these stones were erected, but what they say about the people who built them. In an age without written language, without modern technology, how did these communities coordinate, plan, and execute such a monumental task? And what drove them? Devotion, fear, a desire to connect with the cosmos, or something else entirely? The answers remain tantalizingly out of reach, glimpsed only in fragments, patterns, and faint traces of human intent etched in stone. As the light fades across the fields of Brittany, casting long shadows between the rows, the Karnak stones seem to exhale centuries of secrets into the cold evening air. They invite reflection, curiosity, and wonder. Standing there, one cannot help but ask, what else lies beneath the surface, unseen and unexplored? What knowledge, what truths might still be buried within this vast alignment of silent sentinels? The questions linger, unanswered, and the mystery of Karnak endures, a testament to human imagination, ambition, and the enduring power of the unknown. Nestled amidst the misty, undulating hills of the Xiangkuang Plateau in northern Laos, the Plain of Jars stretches over a landscape that seems almost untouched by time. From a distance, the scattered stone jars, sometimes alone, sometimes clustered in groups, appear like the remnants of a forgotten civilization, emerging from the earth with a quiet, stoic presence. Their sheer size is immediately striking. Some reach heights of over 3 meters, others are closer to human scale, but all possess a weight and permanence that defy easy understanding. Crafted from sandstone, granite, or conglomerate, the jars are worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain, their surfaces etched with the passage of time, yet revealing little of their original purpose. Walking among these colossal vessels, one cannot help but feel a sense of reverence mingled with unease. The air is thick with the scent of moss and damp earth, and the hills themselves seem to hold secrets just beyond reach. The jars sit in isolation and in silent company, scattered across the landscape in patterns that seem both deliberate and random, defying conventional explanation. The plateau stretches beyond the horizon, dotted with hundreds, perhaps thousands, of these enigmatic monoliths, each one a puzzle waiting for discovery. Archaeologists have long studied the plain of jars, attempting to piece together the story of their creation. Radiocarbon dating and excavation suggest that the jars date back to the Iron Age, roughly between 500 BCE and 500 CE, though exact timelines remain uncertain. Evidence points to their use in funerary practices. Human remains, burial goods, and cremated bones have been found in and around some of the jars, hinting at a ritualistic significance. Yet, for all the artifacts and skeletal fragments uncovered, the function of the jars themselves remains elusive. Were they simply containers for the dead? Or did they serve a more complex ceremonial role, perhaps as markers of status, cosmological symbols, or conduits to the spirit world? Theories abound, each carrying its own weight of intrigue. Mainstream scholars suggest that the jars were used in a form of secondary burial, where the deceased were initially cremated or otherwise prepared, and their remains then placed in these enormous stone vessels. This explanation aligns with findings of bones, pottery, and bronze objects in and around the jars. But even within this framework, questions arise. How were these massive stones quarried and transported to the plateau, often over difficult terrain, without the benefit of advanced machinery? What motivated the creators to invest so much labor into crafting and moving objects of such immense size? And why did the practice eventually cease, leaving the landscape dotted with empty jars and mysteries lingering in their shadows? Beyond the accepted archaeological perspective, more speculative ideas have emerged over the years, inviting us to ponder possibilities that challenge conventional understanding. Some suggest that the jars may have been designed as astronomical markers, their placement and orientation aligned with celestial events or cycles of the moon and sun. Could these stone vessels have been part of a larger cosmological map, connecting the earth with the heavens in ways lost to memory? Others propose that they were once used to brew or ferment rice wine on a massive scale, their shape and composition aiding in an ancient form of production that remains undocumented in historical records. Yet the most enigmatic theories are those that venture into the realm of the otherworldly. Local folklore speaks of spirits inhabiting the jars, guardians of a sacred landscape, or of ancient giants who shaped the stones and left them as monuments. There are whispers of connections to long-lost civilizations whose knowledge and techniques vanished with time, leaving behind only these silent sentinels. The very scale of the jars, their placement in seemingly random clusters, and the absence of definitive tools or inscriptions all contribute to a sense that their creators were attempting something beyond the ordinary. A dialogue with forces or ideas now invisible to us. Adding to the mystery is the pattern of destruction and survival etched into the landscape. During the mid-20th century, the Xiangquang Plateau became a battleground in the Laotian Civil War, and many jars were damaged or buried beneath unexploded ordnance. Today, the land itself retains scars that mirror the uncertainty of the jar's origin. The violence of history overlays the quiet of prehistory, creating a tension that deepens the mystery rather than diminishes it. Archaeologists must navigate not only natural erosion, but also these dangerous remnants of human conflict, making the task of uncovering truth all the more precarious. Even the local communities, who live alongside the jars and have done so for generations, maintain a mixture of reverence and cautious curiosity. Oral traditions speak of the jars as ancient relics of the earth, touched by spirits or ancestors, yet their original creators are seldom mentioned. The names and stories are often fragmented, a puzzle in their own right, echoing the larger mystery and leaving space for speculation. It is a living testimony to how these stones have persisted in both material and cultural memory, bridging the past and the present in ways that defy full comprehension. When standing before a jar, the mind is inevitably drawn to its sheer, silent presence. Each vessel is at once mundane and extraordinary, a functional object transformed into an enduring enigma. It invites reflection on human ingenuity, ritual, and the deep desire to leave a mark that outlives its maker. And yet, for all our scientific tools, our surveys, and our theories, the jars retain a stubborn ambiguity. Were they practical? Sacred? A statement of power or artistry? Or something altogether more profound, a language of stone that only the ancient world could understand? The more one observes, the more subtle questions emerge. Why are the jars sometimes arranged in clusters and sometimes isolated, as if hiding a code or pattern we are not yet ready to decipher? Why do certain jars show signs of having been moved or altered over time, suggesting an ongoing engagement with these objects long after their creation? And what might lie buried beneath the soil in areas yet untouched by excavation, preserving secrets that could rewrite our understanding of early Southeast Asian civilizations? As the sun dips behind the hills, casting long shadows over the plateau, the jars take on an almost ethereal quality. Their surfaces catch the fading light, revealing textures and contours that change with the hour, as if the stones themselves are aware of the passage of time. In this shifting twilight, it becomes clear that the Plain of Jars is more than an archaeological site. It is a place where history, mystery, and imagination converge. Each jar is a question, and the plateau is a landscape of inquiry, waiting patiently for answers that may never come. And so, we are left with an enduring sense of wonder. Despite decades of study, excavation, and theorizing, the Plain of Jars continues to resist full explanation. The stones speak in silence, urging us to acknowledge both the achievements and the enigmas of those who came before us. Perhaps the jars were never meant to be fully understood, existing instead as monuments to the unknown, reminding us that history is not always a story with clear beginnings and endings. They invite us to pause, to reflect, and to ask, in a world where so much can be measured, cataloged, and explained, what remains beyond our grasp, waiting quietly in the hills of Laos? In a quiet corner of the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, tucked behind velvet ropes and preserved under protective glass, rests a relic that has fascinated scholars, cartographers, and mystery seekers for centuries: the Piri Reis map. At first glance, it may appear unassuming. Delicate parchment, browned with age, adorned with intricate, colorful drawings of coastlines and annotations in Ottoman Turkish. Yet, despite its modest dimensions, this fragment of a 16th century map holds a perplexing significance that continues to captivate the imagination. The map itself dates to 1513 and was created by Piri Reis, an Ottoman admiral, navigator, and cartographer. He inscribed upon it coastlines that stretch from the western coast of Africa to parts of the Americas, at a time when European exploration was still in its early stages. What is particularly striking is the apparent accuracy with which the map depicts regions that were, at that point in history, only partially known to Europeans. The depiction of South America's coastline, for instance, aligns with modern measurements more precisely than many maps created decades later. The details are meticulous. Rivers, mountain ranges, and islands are rendered with astonishing clarity, as if the hand that drew them possessed knowledge beyond the maps of the day. Mainstream historical research attributes Piri Reis's accuracy to his use of multiple source maps, some dating back to ancient times, including Portuguese charts and maps from the Age of Discovery. He himself notes in annotations on the map that he compiled it from 20 different charts and mappa mundi, some from explorers and some from older sources, including the works of Christopher Columbus. This methodical synthesis could explain the map's surprising precision, suggesting that Piri Reis was a master of cartographic scholarship rather than a bearer of secret knowledge. Yet it is precisely the elements that challenge conventional explanations that have fueled speculation and intrigue. One of the most debated aspects is the map's depiction of the Antarctic coastline, long before the continent was officially discovered in 1820. Some researchers argue that the southernmost portion of the map corresponds to Queen Maud Land, an ice-covered region of Antarctica. If true, this raises profound questions. How could a 16th-century Ottoman admiral, relying on contemporary sources, produce a map of a land that would not be charted for 3 centuries? Was it a result of a simple coincidence, an imaginative projection of unknown territories, or did the map draw upon an older, lost source of geographic knowledge? Further fueling the mystery is the map's remarkable attention to topographical detail. Certain features of the Antarctic portion, when compared with modern surveys, appear to reflect the landmass as it existed before being covered by ice. This has led to intense debate among some theorists who propose that the Piri Reis map may contain remnants of ancient knowledge, perhaps even traces of an advanced civilization that mapped the world with techniques lost to time. While mainstream archaeology and geography do not fully support such interpretations, the precision and anomalies of the map continue to invite questions about the sources and methods available to early cartographers. In addition to geographic curiosity, the map is a window into the culture and intellect of its creator. Piri Reis was more than a map maker. He was an admiral who navigated the Mediterranean and the Atlantic, engaging with the complex maritime world of the Ottoman Empire. His annotations reveal a mind that was curious, methodical, and engaged with the broader knowledge networks of his time. He commented not only on the shapes of coastlines, but also on the people, cultures, and resources of the lands depicted. The Piri Reis map is thus as much an artifact of historical perspective as it is a geographical document, bridging the empirical world of navigation with the human impulse to understand and record. Speculation has long extended beyond the Antarctic anomaly. Some have proposed that the map shows knowledge of magnetic declination, the gradual drift of the Earth's magnetic poles, which would have been unknown to navigators of the early 16th century. Others point to the meticulous triangulation and scale, suggesting a technical understanding of geography that some argue could only have been achieved with instruments and knowledge not documented until centuries later. The debate continues because, in certain aspects, the Piri Reis map does not fit neatly into the accepted historical narrative. Even within the map's own fragmentary state, only about 1/3 survives, the artistry and detail convey a sense of intentionality, of care, and of knowledge that reaches beyond the ordinary. The map is decorated with miniature ships, sea creatures, and notes that hint at hazards, winds, and currents. These embellishments are more than decorative. They indicate an intimate familiarity with maritime life and the challenges of ocean navigation. It is as though Piri Reis sought not only to chart the land, but to encode a lifetime of experience, insight, and perhaps even subtle secrets into every line. Over the years, the Piri Reis map has inspired speculation that ranges from the plausible to the extraordinary. Some fringe theories even propose that it reflects contact with a lost civilization or ancient seafaring people whose knowledge predated modern cartography. Others suggest the involvement of extraterrestrial influence, citing the map's precision as evidence of advanced guidance. While such theories remain outside the academic mainstream, they underscore the enduring fascination with this object, a fascination rooted in its to challenge what we think we know about history, exploration, and human ingenuity. As scholars continue to study the Piri Reis map, questions about its origins, sources, and accuracy remain. Some researchers are re-examining old sources, applying modern cartographic techniques and satellite imagery to assess alignments, distances, and the possible meaning of its annotations. Others look to the broader historical context, considering the trade networks, navigation knowledge, and geopolitical currents of the early 16th century that might explain its existence. Yet, despite decades of scholarship, the map retains an aura of the unknown, a quiet insistence that some mysteries endure, inviting us to consider the limits of what we know. Standing before an image of the map, whether in the hushed halls of the Topkapi Palace or reproduced on a screen, one cannot help but be drawn into contemplation. The lines and colors evoke oceans crossed, lands imagined, and knowledge painstakingly gathered. And yet, the fragmentary nature of the artifact reminds us of what is lost. The other 2/3 of the map, the sources that contributed to it, and perhaps even the original intent behind its creation. Was it simply a practical tool for navigation, a scholarly synthesis, or something more profound? A whisper from a time when knowledge was both sacred and secret? The Puri race map, like the Plain of Jars, reminds us that history is not always linear, complete, or fully comprehensible. It invites us to peer into the past with both rigor and imagination, to question the boundaries of documented knowledge, and to acknowledge the enduring enigmas that continue to shape our understanding of human history. The map speaks in the language of lines, symbols, and parchment, leaving us with an open question that lingers long after the viewing ends. What other knowledge, lost or hidden, may still lie beneath the surface of our world, waiting to be rediscovered? High atop a forested hill in West Java, Indonesia, the site of Gunung Padang emerges from the dense greenery like a monument both ancient and immense. From a distance, it appears as a terraced landscape, sculpted into successive levels of stone, rising toward the sky with a quiet yet commanding presence. Each terrace is lined with massive rectangular stones, some weighing several tons, carefully placed to form what seems at first glance to be a simple megalithic complex. But the further one approaches, the more the intricacy and scale become apparent, and the more questions arise. Gunung Padang is often described as a pyramid or stepped platform, a unique architectural form that sets it apart from other megalithic sites in Indonesia. The terraces ascend gradually, creating a subtle, almost hypnotic symmetry. The stones themselves are irregular but interlock in ways that suggest an advanced understanding of construction. Moss and lichen coat their surfaces, and roots weave between cracks, hinting at centuries, if not millennia, of exposure to wind, rain, and the slow creep of time. The air is thick with the scent of earth and vegetation, and the surrounding jungle hums quietly, as though guarding the secrets embedded in the stone. Mainstream archaeological studies suggest that Gunung Padang was built during the megalithic period, roughly between 2500 and 1500 BCE. Excavations reveal tools, pottery shards, and other artifacts typical of the Neolithic era, supporting the idea that the site was a center of ritual or communal activity. Its location on a hilltop may have been chosen for its strategic or spiritual significance, perhaps serving as a ceremonial platform, an astronomical observatory, or a sacred place for ancestors. Yet despite decades of research, the full purpose and origins of the site remain elusive. What captivates researchers and observers alike is not merely the sheer size of Gunung Padang, but the possibility that its foundations conceal something far older than initially believed. Studies employing ground-penetrating radar, geoelectric surveys, and seismic tomography have suggested that the visible terraces may only be the tip of a much larger structure extending deep beneath the surface. Layers of stone, some aligned in geometric patterns, appear to continue downward, leading some scientists to propose that the site could be the remnants of a pyramid-like structure hidden for thousands of years. If this is the case, the implications for understanding the prehistoric history of the region are profound. Skeptics caution against drawing premature conclusions. Natural geological formations, tectonic activity, and later human modifications could account for some of the anomalies detected in surveys. Yet the debate itself is a testament to the site's enduring enigma. How did early inhabitants of Java manage to quarry, transport, and precisely position such enormous stones without the machinery and engineering knowledge that modern construction would require? And why build on this specific hill, aligning terraces in patterns that seem to carry symbolic or practical significance? Beyond the conventional explanations, Gunung Padang has inspired more speculative theories, some of which challenge the established timeline of human civilization in the region. Certain geologists argue that some of the deeper layers could date back as far as 10,000 to 20,000 years, predating known megalithic cultures in Southeast Asia. If true, this would suggest that a sophisticated civilization existed in the Indonesian archipelago far earlier than previously thought, leaving behind monuments that modern archaeology is only beginning to uncover. The notion of an advanced prehistoric society sparks intrigue and controversy, inviting both rigorous investigation and imaginative reflection. The site's construction also prompts questions about cultural intent and ritual significance. Why build such a labor-intensive structure in a remote location? Could it have served as a pilgrimage site, a center of governance, or a repository of sacred knowledge? Some researchers suggest that the terraces may have been designed to channel spiritual energy, or to align with celestial events, marking solstices or equinoxes. Others propose that the construction could reflect a lost technology or architectural method, now obscured by time and natural erosion. In each case, the stones seem to communicate not only physical presence, but an enduring sense of purpose that defies easy interpretation. Visitors to Gunung Padang often report a palpable sense of mystery. As one ascends the terraces, the stones themselves seem to shift subtly in perception, their scale and arrangement creating patterns that hint at intentional design. Shadows deepen the contours of the terraces, and the rhythm of the steps encourages a slow, meditative engagement with the landscape. There is an almost tactile connection to the past. The weight of the stones, the roughness of their surfaces, and the way the terraces stretch into the forested horizon all evoke a dialogue between human endeavor and natural forces. In the decades since its discovery, Gunung Padang has drawn archaeologists, geologists, and enthusiasts from around the world. Modern techniques, radiocarbon dating, 3D mapping, and soil analysis have revealed tantalizing hints of complexity, yet each revelation seems to open new questions rather than provide definitive answers. The potential depth of the site, the sophistication of its construction, and the possibility of ancient origins continue to challenge assumptions about the timeline and capabilities of early societies in Southeast Asia. Some of the most provocative theories suggest connections to other ancient megalithic sites, raising the possibility of a network of early civilizations that shared architectural knowledge across vast distances. Could Gunung Padang be part of a broader, global phenomenon, linking disparate cultures in ways we have yet to comprehend? Or is its significance uniquely local, a remarkable expression of ingenuity arising independently within the Indonesian archipelago? These questions remain open as the evidence resists easy categorization. As the sun filters through the dense canopy, casting shifting patterns on the terraces, one is struck by the enduring silence of the site. Gunung Padang is both a monument and a mystery, a landscape shaped by human hands, yet ultimately defying full understanding. Each stone, each terrace, is a question etched in granite, challenging observers to reconcile what is visible with what may lie hidden beneath the surface. The more one contemplates Gunung Padang, the more it becomes clear that the site is not merely a relic of the past, but a living enigma. It invites careful study, imaginative thought, and a willingness to embrace uncertainty. Its terraces and stones whisper of labor, intention, and perhaps knowledge lost to time, leaving us to wonder what remains undiscovered beneath the layers of earth and memory. In this quiet, elevated space, history, mystery, and possibility converge, reminding us that some of the most profound archaeological questions are not those answered, but those still waiting to be asked. In the arid silence of the Peruvian desert, where the wind carries only whispers across endless dunes, lies one of the most enigmatic landscapes on Earth, the Nazca region. Here, beneath the relentless sun, the soil has preserved secrets for millennia. Secrets etched into the ground as enormous geoglyphs, visible only from the sky. Secrets buried within tombs, where ancient remains have been shielded from the passage of time. And in recent years, secrets that seem to defy both science and imagination. The so-called Nazca Mummies. Discovered not far from the famous Nazca lines, these strange bodies captured the world's attention in the mid-2000s. Unlike typical pre-Columbian burials, the figures that emerged from the sands were startlingly different. Some appeared unusually small, with elongated skulls and long, slender fingers tipped with 3 prominent digits. Their grayish, desiccated forms, wrapped in plaster-like substances, seemed to echo something more out of legend than archaeology. Photographs and videos of the remains circulated quickly, sparking fascination, skepticism, and controversy in equal measure. At first glance, the discovery seemed almost too extraordinary. Peru is no stranger to ancient burials. Its dry climate is well known for preserving mummies in remarkable condition. For centuries, archaeologists have studied the remains of the Nazca, Paracas, and Inca peoples, uncovering sophisticated cultures skilled in textiles, irrigation, and astronomy. Yet these new mummies did not neatly align with established traditions. Their skeletal proportions were unlike those of ordinary humans, and their appearance ignited a wave of speculation. Were these individuals the product of ritual modification? Could they represent a forgotten branch of humanity? Or were they, as some voices whispered, something not entirely of this earth? Scientific institutions quickly took notice. Samples of tissue and bone were analyzed. Some preliminary studies suggested the remains were indeed organic, composed of real biological material. Radiocarbon dating placed some specimens around 1,000 years old, aligning them roughly with the Nazca civilization. But doubts grew just as quickly. Many researchers argued that the mummies bore the hallmarks of modern fabrication. The 3-fingered hands, critics said, could have been assembled from the bones of animals or altered human remains. The plaster encasing, far from an ancient wrapping technique, raised suspicions of recent tampering. This divide created an unusual situation. On one side were independent researchers and alternative historians, convinced the Nazca mummies represented a genuine paradigm-shifting discovery. On the other were mainstream archaeologists warning against what they saw as a carefully crafted hoax. The tension between these perspectives only deepened the mystery. One of the most striking details often noted is the shape of the skulls. Elongated crania have long been associated with ancient South American cultures, particularly in the Paracas region, where deliberate cranial deformation was practiced. Deformation was practiced for ceremonial or aesthetic reasons. Infants' heads were bound with cloth or wooden boards, gradually reshaping the skull over time. Archaeologists have long understood this as a cultural practice rather than evidence of a different species. Could the Nazca mummies simply represent an extreme example of such traditions, distorted further by centuries of natural decay? Or do their proportions suggest something that cannot be explained away so easily? Equally puzzling are the hands. The 3-fingered structure has no known parallel in human anatomy. While some argue the digits could have been surgically altered or artificially constructed, Others insist the bone arrangements appear too intricate to dismiss entirely as crude forgery. If authentic, they would point to a physiology unlike any population known to history. But how could such beings have lived, interacted, and ultimately vanished without leaving broader traces in the archaeological record? The setting itself deepens the enigma. The Nazca Desert is home to some of the most puzzling creations of the ancient world. The Nazca Lines. Spanning hundreds of square kilometers, these massive geoglyphs depict animals, plants, and geometric forms only discernible from high above. For decades, their purpose has been debated. Were they ritual pathways, astronomical calendars, or messages to the gods? Some propose that if the Nazca were capable of such immense and mysterious undertakings, perhaps their knowledge and their contact with the unknown extended further than we realize. Yet there is caution in drawing connections too quickly. Archaeologists remind us that extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence. Fabrications and exaggerations have often clouded genuine discoveries. The plaster coating found on some of the mummies does not match traditional burial practices of the Nazca or any other pre-Columbian culture. DNA results remain inconclusive, with some labs reporting anomalies while others find nothing out of the ordinary. Independent verification has been difficult, as Peruvian authorities have expressed concerns over the removal of remains from their original contexts. Without clear provenance, the line between authentic artifact and modern construct becomes blurred. Still, one cannot ignore the psychological power of these figures. Their alien-like appearance strikes a chord deep in the human imagination. They remind us of ancient myths in which gods descended from the sky, of legends told by indigenous peoples of beings who taught knowledge before disappearing into the heavens. They echo themes found in global folklore, the blurred boundary between humanity and the unknown. Are these mummies merely an elaborate trick exploiting our fascination with otherworldly mysteries? Or are they a misunderstood fragment of history, waiting for the right key to unlock their meaning? As with many archaeological puzzles, time itself seems to conspire in silence. The desert keeps its secrets well. Sand buries, wind erases, and memory fades. Whether the Nazca mummies are authentic remnants of a forgotten chapter in human history, or clever fabrications born in the shadows of controversy, they serve one undeniable role. They challenge us to confront the limits of our knowledge. Standing before them, one cannot help but ask, what stories remain untold beneath the Peruvian soil? If these figures are genuine, who were they? And what place did they hold in the lives of the Nazca? If they are not, then why were they made, and what truth lies hidden within the deception? In the end, the desert offers no answers, only silence. And in that silence lingers a haunting possibility, that the greatest mysteries are not those we solve, but those that continue to elude us. What else might still lie waiting, just beneath the shifting sands of Nazca?